What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another Pokemon Rants. Nostalgia is that bittersweet longing for those oh so great memories from our past experiences. But what happens when you bring nostalgia to the present, relive it, and then fall in love all over again? That's when you can turn that bittersweet into just sweet. And that's exactly what PoNGa has done here. Finding just the right balance between collecting, investing, selling, and participating in the hobby, he's actually find that sweet spot that so many struggle and sometimes never find. Starting small, staying steady, and participating in many ways that we're going to find out hopefully here today. He has expanded the peaks and has new horizons year over year. And this is a conversation that I have been long waiting for, and I can't wait to share it with all of you. So join me in welcoming PoNGa to Pokemon Wonder. Welcome, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You have the best intros in the game for sure. It's pretty surreal being on here because just watching the intro, seeing all those amazing people in your intro, it's crazy to think that I could even do this. So thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. Everybody's time is deeply valuable, and even especially with you. And I'll say here, just here in public, truly apologize for the last minute kind of scheduling. As I mentioned to you in the pre-call, the past 3 or 4 weeks have been just absolutely crazy. So I
Yeah,
appreciate you accepting last minute, man.
of course. Hey, and like we talked about, I don't have that much content to review, so it should be a little bit easier on you.
Well, luckily I have research always flowing at all times for nearly everybody. So, yeah, I keep tabs. I keep tabs. So, do us the deed, if you would, sir, and give us just a little bit of introduction, how you got into Pokemon, and as usual, we'll kick it off from there.
Yeah, so typical story, 1999, 2000. I think at that point I was like 6 years old. Um, got into Pokemon Red Blue, the video game.
Nice.
Collected the cards. I think up until when I went through my old collection, I think up until Aquapolis was the
Yeah.
last set that I had, and then fell out of it like most people. But I always continued to play the games. I remember when I was in high school, I played baseball, and Monday through Saturday we
Mm.
had practice or games, but we were off Sunday, and I would wake up at like 7 a.m. on Sunday morning to play Pokemon White, which
Nice.
isn't everyone's most favorite generation, but I just loved Pokemon my whole life, right? And then Pokemon Go came out in 2016. Um, Played it every day of my life. Went to all the Pokemon Go Fest, all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, didn't get back into cards back then. I wish I did. I'd probably be in
Mm.
a way better financial and collection place at this point. Um, and then, open stuff here and there. I remember I got a Cosmic Eclipse ETB, before the boom. I think that was like
Mm.
2019.
About 15
And then,
bucks.
yeah, yeah. I mean, everything. It's funny. Yeah. So my wife gave me a Shining
Shiny
Legends
Fates.
Elite Trainer
Yeah.
box.
Oh,
No,
Legends.
Shining
Okay.
Legends Elite Trainer box,
Okay.
and it was like $28 or something like that. And that was like 2019 or something like that. And well, I'd say late 2019, early 2020, was going through like old sports cards I had and my old Pokemon cards. And this was before the pandemic, and kind of just got back into it there. Started buying things here and there
Mm.
to open. I remember like buying Unbroken Bonds 3-pack blisters to open, stuff like that. And then quickly realized that opening cards is a loss very quickly. And so
This
I
is news
really,
for me.
yeah, maybe you could get really lucky, but quickly realized that sealed was my route. I love sealed, and that's
Mm.
that's what I pretty much do to this day. So it's a little backstory.
I love it, man. And you being there since the very beginning in terms of your childhood and coming all the way up through it, it's sounded like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, you've actually stayed consistent just in one form or another. Early on it was cartoons, cards, then you got video games. You persisted with the video games most of the way through, or did you actually stop college time like everybody else?
Yeah. So the only game I think I didn't play when it first released was XY. I think
Mm.
every other generation of games I played when it came out.
Okay. Yeah.
So
So
pretty
that
much been into
kept
it
you
my
in.
whole life, at least a little bit, right? Here and there.
Right. So then, what about it when you looked at those sports cards? You kind of went back through your old collection. what about it said, you know what, I want to start buying cards again? What was that itch?
Yeah, back then you don't, when you first start going back through your stuff, you don't have that instant appreciation. At least I didn't. You start looking up prices. What could I sell them for? And then the more you
Yeah,
look at the cards, you just get brought back to when you opened them or looking at
exactly.
them when you were 10 years old or whatever it is. And I can't pinpoint the exact moment, but there was just like this switch that flipped that when I was looking at the cards, I thought, I can't ever sell these. I need more. Um,
I
you
love it.
know, you just get like this instant nostalgia and you just like go back to being a kid and just randomly found that appreciation for cards again. It was, like I said, it wasn't a singular moment. It was just like a course of a few months where it just slowly started to creep back in, and then it's been most of my life since that point in early 2020.
It's funny. I share a similar story. I mentioned it a few times a while back in a couple of different streams, but my major collecting in cards was baseball and basketball growing up. Um, and as I got into Pokemon with my kids, I went back and looked at all my sports cards. I just pulled them out. You know what? I started looking at it and said, wow, I got these in terrible sleeves. They're like yellow, and I need to
Yeah,
go and change all this stuff out. And it's just, you just peel it apart and it's just, it's just terrible. But
yeah, it's a
when I
yeah,
look,
and go ahead.
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like the sports cards is what kind of really got me into it. Like you mentioned,
Yeah.
and it's funny because most people like go back and they see Leonhardt or Unlisted Leaf back then, and those were the YouTubers that kind of got them back into it. And the YouTuber that really got me back into it when I first started watching again was actually the channel Phil's Polls, which Phil Hughes was a pitcher for the Yankees, I think the Twins, and I'm not sure if there was any other teams, but he would open like crazy boxes of sports cards. I mean, he's made millions of dollars playing baseball, so he could afford it. And then um, he actually like went through this whole process of trying to pull the Charizard from Hidden Fate. So he opened a bunch of Pokemon cards, and that's kind of how I got back into it. It was being obsessed with watching him watch Hidden or open Hidden Fates, and kind of took off from there.
That was it. That was it. Yeah. But I just finishing the thought too, as well, is I laid out all my cards. I started reorganizing. I was a kid. I had some of these in like shoe boxes. Some of them were in binders that were just not. I thought I took good care of my cards, and compared to my friends, I did. But when I looked at them now with my adult eyes, I was like, wow, this is rough. But I
Yeah,
laid them all out, and I got this big like fold out table right behind me, and I sat here for like a week or two and just went through all the cards, organized them, and to your point, looking at those cards, I remember vividly so many of those moments when I pulled up my pack. I was trading with friends. We were jumping off the dresser onto the water beds and just going crazy. Um, it's then I had Pokemon right beside me as my new hobby, and I was like, okay, this is it. Like we're going in. This is gonna be fun. But I didn't enjoy sports the way that I enjoy Pokemon. There's just so many
hmm
other facets, and I really enjoy it.
I have to ask before we move forward with Pokemon.
Sure.
Did you have a favorite baseball player growing up? You said you collected baseball cards.
Um, Baseball for me was something my aunt. So she lived in Ohio. Well, she still does, and she took me to a lot of the Cleveland games. Um, and I got the cards. I enjoyed baseball more as a younger child, but as I got just a little bit older, it was basketball for me. So I didn't really have, Mark McGuire. All those were like the ones I was collecting, Barry Bonds. I still have them. I didn't sell
Yeah,
anything. But those are the ones I always watched. It was always just the key typical players. I didn't really have favorites when it came to baseball. For me, it was basketball, and it was the traditional Jordan, Pippen, Magic Johnson,
yeah,
David Robinson, the typical classics, right? Larry Bird. But yeah, that was more fun for me because I also played basketball. I would dribble back and forth from my house, which was probably half a mile from the Boys and Girls Club. I would dribble the basketball from my house all the way up the sidewalk to the Boys
yeah.
and Girls Club, stay there and play basketball until my mom got off work, and she'd come pick me up. That was my after school for a decade. So it was much more on the basketball side. You
Much
did
much
you have
simpler
one?
times.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
yes. So huge Cubs fan, but my favorite player
Yeah.
growing up was probably Ken Griffey Jr. So
Oh yeah, classic. Yeah.
I swing lefty. He's got the
Okay.
best left-handed swing of all time, in my opinion, and most people's opinions, I'd say. So he uh he was the guy.
Yeah. And basketball? No.
Yeah. So I played baseball my whole life, but
Yeah.
I enjoyed playing basketball the most.
Hmm.
Um, I'm obviously a Bulls fan, being from Illinois. I was a little too young to really enjoy the Jordan days. But
Because you're
you know,
29,
from
right?
yes, yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
was, 6 years old by the time he was done. So, um, I've been a LeBron guy my whole life. Not making the argument who's better, but just appreciate what,
They
appreciate,
both bring
that.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hey, to be 16 years old and being on the cover of Sports Illustrated and never having some scandal or, falling into bad things when you're that famous and that rich at such
Yeah.
a young age,
It's
it's
admirable.
something to
Yeah.
to look up to. Yeah.
Yeah. Very much so. Now we won't go down the rabbit hole of
Yeah.
LeBron versus Jordan. Don't worry. We'll save that for a Collecticon night
Yeah.
and some IPAs with Dan.
Yes,
Uh,
please.
but we do it on a Saturday instead of Friday.
I
Uh,
actually I see it in the chat real quick. I will just
yeah,
one
please.
last baseball thing. So Giovanni's Pikachu
Corey.
said Corey Patter. So my dad actually threw out the first pitch at Wrigley Field to Corey Patterson. So it's
Really?
funny that you mentioned him. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. While we're here, let's go ahead and take the moment of respect for everybody showing up. I saw a few that couldn't make it tonight. iFOMO always being first in the chat. Zach at R&D, no worries, man. I know you have to get up early. Sorry to hear that you're not feeling well, Terry. Hope you feel better, my friend. Walrus in the chat as well. Yep, now you know. Somebody famous, man. He's on TV, guys. He's on TV. We got Chef in the house. Always good to see you, Chef, man. Much love. We got Drew. Drew, really appreciate it. Good to see you. I know you're probably gone by now, going to manage the craziness on PK's lab, but have
Number
fun.
one mod in the game.
That's right. That's right. Drew's got some great support, and I look forward to talking to more Drew here in hopefully near future. Giovanni, good to see you as well. Marshall, Bierski. Look at this cutie, he says. We got trainer Glenn in the house as well. Felipe, good to see you, my friend. Always good to see you. Navi Station, and many, many more. Guys, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. We'll go ahead and keep on going. And of course, as always, try to weave in some of the questions and ideas throughout the chats. Feel free to also mention PoNGa like you did here. If you have anything you want to bring up, happy to do it.
Sounds good.
Tell me your education, though. Again, we'll get into your job next, but I have to imagine that you probably went to school at a prestigious college to get your degree here.
So um, I went to a college that um, very small. I went there primarily for baseball. And so it was kind of like
Oh,
yeah, so I was a 5'10" first baseman, which didn't bode all that well for playing at the highest level, right? And so I went to a small Division III school close by where I live now, and didn't really know for sure my path on what I wanted to do. So I always have loved finance and economics, so I was very close to
hmm.
double majoring in those two. Took some finance courses and some economics courses while I was in school. Had a path where I thought I was going to go to dental school, and so I really focused on a major
Okay.
of
Not sure what
what
happened there.
happened.
I have
Okay,
no
I
idea.
didn't know if it was me, if I didn't know if I was still live or not.
Yeah, it just some kind of reset there. But I think I'm looking at YouTube. We're still live. So yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. So dental
Okay,
school.
okay, cool. Yeah. Where was I? Oh yeah, so I thought I was going to go to dental school. So the path to go to dental school is primarily some science degree. So I actually ended up majoring in biology with a minor in chemistry,
Hmm.
and then started going the dental school route, and then realized that I didn't want to go hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and spend another 4 to 6 years of my life in school. And so I kind of went the the lab-based route. And so I basically just went into the workforce using my degree, which is pretty not typical for the field I'm currently in, which we'll
Mm.
touch on next. But most people have their PhD and stuff when I just have my bachelor's in biology.
Hmm. Why dental though? And baseball player, I can see it. You look like a baseball player all day long. I can even see what comes next. But why dental?
Uh, you make a lot of money. um,
Okay.
no,
Go
I
for
mean,
it.
in all honesty, you know, the requirements to become a dentist, those are the subjects I'm best in, and things that I've always been
Mm.
kind of acclimated to and comfortable with.
Okay.
And I did a bunch of like shadowing at dental offices. My aunt worked at a dental office my whole life, so I was pretty in tune with what was going on. I did some shadowing work at like a really big orthodontics office by me as well.
Hmm.
Um, and I thought it was just a good career path. I think, I always liked science, and the science career path tends to be med school. I knew I didn't want to do med school, so I think I just picked the step down from that, which isn't really a step
Okay.
down. It's similar to med school. It's basically med school, but kind of went towards that path. But yeah, it wasn't suited for me, and that's why I didn't do it.
What did you see that you didn't like?
Um,
Other
well,
than the
I kind of
debt.
mentioned, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't like the idea of going to school for another 6 years, and
Mm.
I thought I wouldn't be happy doing it. I mean, I think there's like some studies out there saying that um, dentists aren't the most happy people, and there's some things that happen when dentists aren't happy, and so I just knew it wasn't for me. I just got that instant gut feeling and knew it wasn't for me,
Mm.
and that's really the extent of it.
That's all you need. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
When you feel that, you know it's time to change directions. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
But I would see you also as a great like accountant or tax consultant too. So yeah, I could see the numbers side of it. Yeah.
I'm really good with numbers. I actually kind of have like a weird memory with numbers where if I hear a number, I'll always memorize it, which was very strange.
Hmm.
And like I said, I almost went the finance kind of route, and I took accounting courses and all that kind of stuff as well, even dating back to high school. So it's something I enjoy, and sometimes I kind of wish I went that route because I think there's a lot more opportunity for progression. But I'm happy where I am.
Until Pokemon takes over your life. Yeah, no worries. So we'll stay
No, no,
there.
no, no, no. Not anywhere close to that.
We'll see. We'll see. But so this took you then into obviously
Ye-
now your current job. So maybe walk us from your graduation to this point and how you do your current career.
Yeah, so I like any other science major, if there's any out there, you either go med school or you go kind of the lab-based route. And so typically what happens in this field is there's a lot of recruiters that you get contracted positions to gain experience.
Mm.
And that's kind of the route I went, where I saw a posting for a year-long position. They don't even tell you what company it's at. So I went through that route, interviewed with the recruiting company, and then interviewed with my current company. So it was basically a role to do lab work for more senior researchers. So basically doing
Okay.
all their lab work and then reporting the results to them. So I did that for a year and then did such a good job, and people spoke so highly of me that I was recommended to apply for a full research position in my current group. And luckily enough, got that, and I've just as of a week and a half ago just reached 5 years full time there. So my
Congrats.
current job title, senior chemist. It sounds like a super fancy term, and we briefly talked about this in the pre-talk, but it seems like it sounds like it'd be a lot of lab work, but in reality, it's a lot of project management. So I'm kind of in the research and development side of things. So developing chemistries, new equipment, digital solutions, several years out. So it's a lot of project management, planning long term, making PowerPoints, all that kind of stuff, and then a little lab work sprinkled in depending on what phase the project's in.
And I would imagine with the area and the industry that it's in, you're probably thinking of 20 or so years out. If you're doing anything around, power plants and things of that nature, you're 20, 30 years is typically the time frame.
Yeah, so it's hard because so we typically look like more so like a 5-year pipeline. So a lot of our stuff's like year 5 sales numbers for our projects and stuff like that. And most of our projects that we're working out are either coming out this year or like the next year or two. And
Okay.
then kind of adapting past that. There's a whole nother group that kind of looks at things way further out. Like
Okay.
if it's a new chemistry and there's some regulation that the market's moving towards for whatever
Exactly.
reason,
Yeah.
there might be like the intermediate steps, which we come out with in the meantime because the final solution
Hmm.
is very complex or not known yet. And so we have a group that develops the chemistry, and then my group more does the application in, like you said, power plants, steel plants, stuff like that, and then
Right.
kind of moves past that. And I'll leave it
Okay.
there because it is research, so I can't share too much.
No worries. No worries. Yeah, but just thinking that far ahead, I do some of it on my side, my wife does some of it on her side, and trying to build solutions for the future, and trying to think that far ahead to build what could be expandable and grow with demand is difficult. So much respect there.
Yeah,
Much respect.
I think the coolest part is you're developing things that are completely unknown, right? Like most of the
Hmm.
stuff is patentable. You get some IP behind it. You're solving problems with no known solution, which is very cool, I think. And that's,
Right.
part of the reason I kind of got into what I was doing. And my company is kind of I'd say the biggest industrial water treatment company in the world, and so we're making an impact on people's lives every day, providing fresh drinking water, all that kind of stuff, and making the world a better place. So that's the cliche thing to say, and you don't think about it every day, but
Yeah.
when you take a step back and think about it, you know, I think a lot of people's goal in life is to make some sort of impact on the world. And when I don't think about it all the time, and now that I'm saying it out loud right now, I'm taking a step back. I am, which is really cool.
Right.
So
Having clean water and being able to treat that from all different manufacturing processes is very, very important. Different flavors of Cheez-Its. I don't know. That could be an R&D. I mean, I don't think that's really a 5-year plan though. That's like this afternoon, next week. It's he does
yeah,
that in
what's
his
the
free time.
trendy new flavor? What's the trendy new
Exactly.
flavor? Chef always gives me a hard time about my eating habits because he posts pictures and I don't like my meat medium rare. And some of the meat he posts on his Instagram is basically raw, and I'm just not here for it. I want mine a little more cooked. I don't want mine still breathing.
Nah, my stepmom actually told me before. She said, your cow's still trying to run away from you on the plate. I said, yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay. It's perfect. It's perfect. Two against one. Sorry, PoNGa. Sorry, you lost.
Yeah.
Hey Dan, good to see you, man. Can't hang out. Want to say hi. No worries.
He
No
can't even
worries.
spell my name right. So disrespectful.
I'll send you the spelling later, Dan. It's capital P, capital,
He
NG.
knows. He knows. He's just trying to get to me.
Which is actually an interesting and fun segue. One of the things I was really curious about, why PoNGa? I tried to think of a
Yeah.
couple of reasons why, and I'm like, I can't think of a good one. He has to tell me.
Yeah, so there's not a great reason. So
Okay, I was
I was
hoping
a
there was like
huge
an awesome story.
no, so I was a huge Call of Duty player. I still am. And
Okay.
my friends growing up, there was an original guy whose name was PoNGa, and we kind of made like a whole clan around that. So each of us had
Mm.
different vowels for the second and fifth letter, and so Panga, Ponga, Pongo, all those kind of stuff. And I've been Pong ever since, and that was probably dating back to like I don't know 2009 or something. So I've always kept that as like my Xbox Live gamer tag, and that's just what I've always gone by my whole life. So yeah, not a super interesting story, but it's just always been my name.
So you got the name PoNGa around the same time you had a full beard. Perfect. Okay, good.
Funny enough, I probably have had a full beard since I was like 12 or 13 years old. Yes.
Sounds about right. Right. Perfect. Perfect. All right. Yeah, I was curious because I was like, well, I could think of a couple of acronyms this could stand for, but I have to know the story. All right,
Yeah.
man. Well, let's jump in. I know you talked a little bit in, Beer Skews podcast and a little bit with Dan on their podcast, Pokey Flips, with Nick as well. But your sealed collection is really where you started to get back into it. You focused in that area, but it was also primarily Japanese. Is that right?
Yeah. So, I mean, when I first started, it was, the first couple months was English. I remember the first
Okay.
Japanese product I really, really got into was Shiny Star V. So that was,
Yeah.
I think that came out late 2020, but I was pre-ordering that probably in like the summer of 2020 prior to even them announcing like the Shiny Charizard and stuff. And
Mm.
so, yeah, primarily now focused on, I do a little bit of both, but what I enjoy
Okay.
for like my personal collection side of things is primarily Japanese.
And do you have a place other than behind you that you have it displayed, or is that your allowed space in the house?
So my whole room, so this is my office that like I work from, play video games and stuff.
Okay.
All my walls are covered in Pokemon stuff. Behind my monitor, I actually have like
Okay.
framed pictures that my wife got me of like all the different generations of Pokemon with like a nice picture. And then I have, I'll just say a whole collection room that's outside of this.
Okay. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. All right. Because
So
any seal collector's got to have more space than that.
yeah. So my wife is amazing, and I don't know if she's listening, but she allows me to display basically anything I want because she enjoys
Mm,
it too. So right
mm.
outside this door is our basement, and we have like we call it like our nerd basement. So we have bookshelves like this that are full of like she has a whole bookshelf full of like Game of Thrones Funko
The
Pops.
Funkos. Yeah.
I have a whole display of Funko Pops that I enjoy. I have a Simpsons arcade out there.
Oh, nice.
LED, light, different lights, colored lights all over the place. Yeah, so it's she allows me to have as much. Well, I won't say as much, but she allows me to have a lot of space to display what I want.
Shout out to the wives. Yeah. As they always are, they're supporting us and making a lot of this possible. So yeah, much
Absolutely. Yeah,
appreciated.
she
Yeah, much
she
appreciated.
is when I first started getting into this, she didn't think I was crazy. She always encouraged me to buy more, which is kind of crazy for some of the purchases I've made. Why didn't you buy
Mm.
more? Why didn't you buy more? So, yeah, she's amazing.
Does she like Pokemon though, or she just likes other collectibles?
Yeah, so she's not big into like the trading card game, but she's been a
Okay.
Pokemon fan her whole life. She loves playing the games.
Hmm.
She knows all the Pokemon, all that kind of stuff. She was into the cards a little bit with me when I first started, but she's not big into it now. She
Okay.
understands she understands what the cards are and all that kind of stuff, but she doesn't necessarily collect herself. She still has her childhood cards, which is crazy. She
Oh,
had like
nice.
a Gold Star Mudkip and all that kind of stuff. So
Very cool.
it's pretty wild what she had.
Do you guys play TCG at all, even online?
I've never been a TCG player.
Oh no. Okay.
I always tell myself I'm going to learn. And I remember the old TCG client, like before they came out with the new one, I downloaded it and played it for like 5 minutes and then gave up. It just, when I play a game, I want to be really good at it. And I know playing a new TCG, it's going to take me a long time to get there. And I'd rather just play something I'm already good at if I'm going to play a video game or some sort of game.
So then you turn it off and turn on Halo. I got it. I got it.
Halo, Call of Duty, sports games that I don't have to think about and I could win.
Okay. Well, we'll see if we can change that. I think me and Chef and a few others, we're going to try to convert as many people as possible to TCG. So don't worry.
Yeah, I mean,
We're coming.
I not just outside of Pokemon too. I've tried to like get into other TCGs as well. Like I was kind of big into Flesh and Blood, and I have a
Hmm.
decent
Okay.
sealed collection in Flesh and Blood as well. And that's like known to be a really good TCG to play. And I'll sit down and watch a video for like 15 minutes and like try to get into it. And I remember like some plane rides, I would download all this content to learn how to play, and then I just never do it.
Yeah. That's when you turn on a movie on the plane. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
forget. I'm
yeah.
just gonna watch a movie.
Or I listen to like Dan talk for an hour and a half about some tax advice or something.
Lawnmower. Yeah.
Yeah, lawnmowers or
Three most prized possessions in Japanese, says Ernie.
Yeah, so this changes every day probably. It's
Right.
probably this shelf,
Those
which
three.
is the
Yeah.
the Tokyo Pokemon Center box, the Kanazawa box, and then this one's got a light reflection, but this is the Yokohama box, which
Nice.
has some cool Pokemon or some Pikachu cards as well as Ultra Shiny GX packs, which is Hidden Fates in Japan.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
let's see what else. I'm going to count that as
Those are
one.
three.
My second
Okay.
one is probably my sealed box of Ultra Shiny GX because that's just Hidden Fates probably isn't the iconic set we thought it was going to be, but the Japanese version of it is a whole year older, which is kind of
Mm.
wild to think about, and it also has like some of the hits that were promos in English in the set, so that's really cool. Um, and then I'm gonna probably mention. I was just looking at. That's why I'm looking to the side. Probably the only slab I have in my personal collection, which is the Shining Lugia from the Japanese version of Shining Legends
Well
in
done,
a
sir.
PSA 10.
Well done.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I know Lugia was your favorite, and that's why I had my finger on that unsubscribe button on the first episode of Box Nostalgia. I was like, if he says this wrong, I'm
Yeah,
out of here.
no, there's
I'm out of here.
no, there's one right answer on who's the best Pokemon, and we all know who
That's
it
right.
is.
That's right. My son, he always says, "Well, who are you gonna have on the podcast this week?" So he's 9, and so I told him your name, and he says, "Well, what's his favorite Pokemon?" I said, "Lugia." He says, "No, not yours, his." I said, "Yeah, that's right, it's his." He knows the right answer. It's Lugia.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's the right answer for sure.
there's only one. Dropping Lugias in the chat. That's right. That's right. But you also have an extended part of the collection that we didn't talk about, and you're going for the goal of one of every
Mm.
sealed pack. Now, is that everything from between Japanese and English? Is it just English? I know it's not artworks,
Yeah,
but
so
yeah,
I,
give me the breakdown.
I, yeah, I kind of touched on that recently, right? Is
Yeah.
I kind of went back and forth between wanting one of every pack, and that primarily just being English.
Okay.
Some of the Japanese packs are so rare, and if they do come up, and I guess you could say that for sets like Sky Ridge and all that kind of stuff in English, but the Japanese versions of the packs are just so rare and so hard to find that I have some of the sealed Japanese packs, but it's primarily just one of every set in English. That includes Pop Series packs, that includes
Wow.
McDonald's
Okay.
packs, that includes everything. Yeah. And so I think for WotC, I have base. The only one I'm missing in WotC, which funny enough, I think is Jungle, which is not that
Hmm.
expensive of a
Right.
pack compared to some of them. And then Gym Heroes, and then I have
Oh, there we go.
Expedition, and then after that, I don't have a lot of the EX
Hmm.
sets.
Sandstorm and all that
And
stuff.
then
Yeah.
I have Diamond and Pearl, Black and White, XY, Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield. And what I will say is having one of every pack, it doesn't have to be a loose pack. So I have like some sealed collection boxes that have
Okay.
some like the older packs in it. So I count that as having the pack as well.
How do you enjoy that part of your collection? Because that booster box, I can see you displaying it. How do you display your packs? What's your enjoyment?
Yeah, so I need to be better. And I actually have like a display on my wall that I used to display them on. So it
Mm,
was like one of those like it looks like one of the Collecticon cases with like the slots that you hang on the wall. And I used to
yeah.
have like a bunch of packs up there, but there's so many sets now that it's hard to display everything. So I don't even have them displayed now. I like the thought of just having them, which sounds crazy to probably some people, but there's been several times where I just take all my packs and put them out on my desk and just look at them. And I
Mm,
know some people probably don't understand that, but when I look at sealed product, I just get like this feeling and I can't explain it. It's just like something I enjoy, something about it. And it might be that, hey, you don't know what's inside.
mm.
Um, but it's like, how could you not love just looking at that?
It's
Like
it's funny. It's
some
funny
of
you
the
bring that
pack
up.
arts and all that kind of stuff. It's just, I don't know what it is. There's just something about it that I really enjoy. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I
Yeah, sell
just
those to
bought
me for
out.
the homie price.
Well, they're empty, so yeah, I'll give it to you.
Oh, okay. Hey,
I just
that's
bought
funny
out
because
a
I
Fire
actually
Flash collection.
really quick. I collect one of every pack I've ever opened as well. But go ahead. You were saying you bought out someone.
But do you have to open it?
Um, I've It's a good question. I've never made that determination because I've never like bought an empty pack artwork. So, but I just
Well,
keep
I'll
one
save
of
these
every
for you if
set
you
I've
need
ever
them.
opened.
I'll save them for you. But no, I'd bought out a Fire Flash collection, so it's the master set, and they had those in the front of the binder. You know, people sometimes want to keep a pack or two that they open from it, so it was there. I was like, oh, that's a really cool artwork. So I've never opened Flash Fire, so I was like, yeah, I'll keep that. I'm gonna put it
And
in a semi-rigid.
what I will say about my collection as well for sealed packs is I'm really bad at collecting. And what I mean by that is like, if you ever look at like TCG Player, like I had an EX Emerald pack. And like, let's say, I don't know what the
Oh yeah.
current market price is, but let's say eBay is like $250. I'll list it on TCG Player for $450 and it'll sometimes sell. And so like some of the more rare packs I've had, I no longer have because they sold for like double market for whatever reason. And so
But then
I'll
you
get
didn't
there
buy it back
eventually.
immediately.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
problem.
So
That's it. Yeah.
there's been some other plays like this. This is a sealed theme deck of Call of Legends, which contains a booster pack. So
Ooh.
I saw like
Ooh.
this deck for like $200, but then I sold one of my sealed just plain booster packs for like $300. So I made money while also kind of upgrading my collection. So I do kind of
Nice.
stuff like that as well. So yeah, I don't know if I'm a bad collector or what, but maybe I'll get there one day. I
But,
I don't have the attention span to finish one collection goal. Um, I like to
mm.
just do a little bit of everything, and I jump from wanting to get every ETB, wanting to get every booster box, wanting to get every sealed pack, and I can't just ever focus on one thing.
But it's not because you don't enjoy it. It's just I think you want more of it. To your wife's point, did you not buy more? You got to buy more, right? Why not?
See, and I don't know that I want to finish the. I don't know if I want to finish the chase. Right,
Right.
part of what makes it enjoyable having it is the chase of not having it and
Exactly.
looking for it and trying to get a good deal and finding someone that broke open a box that you could get a fresh pack or stuff like that. Or like I'll always keep my expedition pack. I'll never sell that because I bought it from David Person, which I think is really cool. Right, stuff like
Oh,
that.
that's cool. Yeah.
It just it's the chase. It's the chase.
It typically is. He says, "Question: Open the most expensive pack."
I don't even know what Expedition's probably up there, right? Expedition's expensive. I don't know how much those go
Yeah.
for, but that's got to be up there. I mean, I'll open it
It's gotta
live
be
right
up
now.
there.
We'll get the views on your channel and we'll go from there.
We'll pay for it with the $20 that we may earn in a year. Yeah. So
Yeah.
no problem. I got you covered, buddy. And I'll supplement it with these two empty pack artworks from Flash
Yeah.
Fire. But no, I want to go back actually to the comment you made about the feeling. I know you said it's hard to explain, but I want to pull that thread just a little bit. Uh, as a kid, when we get those packs, I'm speaking at least for myself. I don't know if you can speak the same way, but we might get like one or two packs, and that's it. And it's maybe who knows how long before you get one again. So like having that moment of having that sealed product and opening something was just so exhilarating and fun. And then to your point, not knowing what's in it and getting to just have that discovery process, but then having one, in your case, of one of everything laid out on the table just to see it all and know that it's all right there, but yet you're not going to look at any of it. So can you tell me, um, do you have that temptation to crack any of it open? Do you have any of the desire to say, oh, I want to open this one and relive a
The
little bit of that childhood experience?
the easy answer is I really don't get tempted to open any of my sealed stuff.
No.
When I first started, I wanted to open things thinking like, oh, if I open this, I could get this card. Quickly, I realized like if I want a card, just go out and buy it. I'm a I don't like risk. I've never liked a lot of risk in my life. And when you're opening
Hmm.
expensive stuff, like, some $500 booster box or a $50 pack, chances of you losing money are very, very high. And I'm the kind of person that if I open something, and my wife used to always make fun of me about it, like if I open like $100 booster box on release and I get $10 of cards out of it, I'll complain about losing my money. I shouldn't have opened this. I shouldn't have opened this. And so I've scratched that itch so many times when I first started. Like I remember
Yeah,
Brilliant Stars came out. I opened a whole case of Brilliant Stars because it's a cool set and fun to open.
it is
But
a really good set.
at this
Yeah.
point, I feel like I'm so desensitized to opening packs that I don't feel the need to open them. I get
Mm,
more enjoyment knowing that one, I have the sealed item, and two, for the most part, it'll retain its value that way. And I
mm,
don't just buy things for the value, but it is nice knowing that if I ever do need to sell something, I could at least get something out of it rather than 5 cents of 5 cents of bulk that I'm probably going to get out of the sealed pack.
I mean, my baseline price is 10 cents per card, just so you know.
Hey, if you're
TCG
paying 10 cents per card, I'm going to open a lot and send it to you tomorrow. So,
I'm not paying that. That's what I'm selling it for.
oh, that's what you're selling it for.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's my baseline on TCG Player. But no, I fully understand. But it's also a weird dichotomy because you're enjoying the journey of going through it, and part of the journey is enjoying it. But then your enjoyment stops at the point of just observing and having, and then you don't actually want to go through it because the enjoyment of losing all your money and getting $10 worth of cards no longer is enjoyment anymore. So
Yeah, I'm just not a
quickly
gambler, right?
finances.
Like
Yeah.
I think people like opening packs because they like the gamble, which I know I was just talking about liking the chase, which is very similar, but
Right.
it's like the
Right.
gambling aspect of just burning your money on fire that I don't enjoy. I don't like,
Mm.
I go to Vegas, I'm not there to go to the casino and gamble. And I, it's very similar to Pokemon. I could open a $5 boost pack and get a $150 card, which is it's cool in thought, but like it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
So
Yeah. I'm with you, but I'm also slightly on the other side because every Friday when we open the Pokemon packs with the kids and we do Pokemon Friday, I really enjoy it, and it's I've struggled to find and maintain the balance of making sure that I'm still enjoying parts of the process in the hobby, even while other areas, business, selling, whatever, scales up. And to your point, you get somewhat desensitized. You're like, okay, well, yeah, it's another pack of Paradox Rift or whatever the case is.
yeah.
Don't have high expectations here, but I still enjoy it, and I try to enjoy it with the kids and enjoy it with the wife, and get a little jealous and say, hey, I'll trade you that one. But it's hard to find that balance and keep it fun and keep it interesting, and that's what I'm trying to make sure we maintain as we go through the process.
Yeah, I will say
Ryan,
I enjoy opening packs when I do it. I just don't do it as often as I used to.
okay, all right. Well, I'll keep that mental note. Ryan, I do
Yeah.
see your questions. I have actually several of your questions. I accidentally asked one already, so you asked the same thing I did. But I have some of those scheduled for later, so we'll hit those in the rapid fire. So just hang tight, Ryan, and we'll get you covered, my friend. Um, so you touched a little bit on Funko Pops, Flesh and Blood. What else do you have in terms of collecting? Video games obviously is a big part of it for you. Oh no.
I was I
You're one of
collect a
those
little bit of
guys.
everything.
Okay.
Well, I was collecting MetaZoo before it blew up. So, um, but yeah, I like dead card games. So like back here, I have a sealed Simpsons booster box.
Oh, cool.
So I'm one of those guys that's weird and collects dead card games. Um, I just like anything that's cool or cool is a terrible word to say, but something I don't
Nostalgic.
even know, just like cool
Yeah.
IPs, nostalgic,
Yeah. Yeah.
things like Simpsons or, um, you know, any card games, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm really nostalgic for Yu-Gi-Oh! So like I recently bought the 25th anniversary reprint boxes just to have one of each, stuff like that.
Mm. Okay.
And then like Funko Pops, like characters I like. And outside of that, you mentioned video games. I love video games, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't go and buy video games to collect. I buy them to play
Right.
them.
To play. Right.
Um, and then I collect them later on. Like I still have like all my GameCube games and all that kind of stuff from when I was a kid that I guess is part of my collection now. I have all my Game Boy stuff and all that sort of stuff that I collect as well. But yeah, I don't go out and seek that kind of stuff.
Right. You're not grading that kind of thing. Yeah.
No. That's
Yeah.
video games is all enjoyable. It's all in like playing and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. There you're willing to open, play, and lose and enjoy. Yeah. Because it doesn't cost you any more than the $50 to buy the game.
Yeah, I mean if I buy the new Call of Duty, right? Like I
Right.
spend 60 or 70 bucks whatever they cost and I'm getting tens of hours out of that playing with friends on and all that kind of stuff. So that's a little more worth it to me than the 3 seconds it takes to go past a few common cards that most people don't even look at and then pull a hollow rare. So
True. True. Fair point. Fair point. Yeah, headshots can be a little bit more stimulating than the hollow rare, for sure.
yeah, for sure.
So, not too long after you transitioned from getting some sealed product, you started to see, in terms of your collection, that is, early back in 2000s, you started to see the value rise, and that just kind of naturally pushed you into selling. In a sense, you say, "Hey, if this is going to be worth double what I just paid for it, I might as well sell it and try to buy something else." And that really started to trickle you into the business side of things. At what point did that become a reality for you? So, you know what? I'm actually going to do this as a side hustle. Let me try to make some money here. How did that really transpire from collecting to now business?
Yeah, so I mean, I'd say it started a little bit with English. So I remember like, you know, Evolution's ETBs restocked on Walmart's website, and I remember they were like 30 bucks. And so I bought those. And then to your point, those started to appreciate probably
Mhm.
like in the summer of 2020, prior to like the whole Logan Paul stuff and all that. Shining Legends restocked on Pokemon Center ETBs, and I would buy those and I realized, hey, they're selling for 80, 90, 100 bucks online. And the pandemic hit, so I had nothing better to do. So I said, well, let me try to sell this stuff so I could fund my collection even further. So I started reselling stuff like that. And then I got to the point where I was looking on um, Reddit for like things to buy or like places to shop from. Cause back then you don't know what are good stores, you don't know
Right.
reputable sellers, all that kind of stuff. And I found the Pokemon TCG deals Reddit. And then shortly after that, they actually opened a Discord, which I was a mod and admin in later on and still am. But to go back to the story, in the summer of 2020, going into the fall, Shiny Star V was the big talk of Japanese Pokemon. And at that point, most people in the US didn't know how to import that kind of stuff. So
Mm,
I basically had access to unlimited boxes at like $40, $45 a box. And when the set
nice.
released, the whole Logan Paul boom, COVID boom happened, and those boxes were selling for like $120 a piece. And so I just kept sourcing those boxes over and over and selling to streamers that were local, keeping a bunch for myself as well because I love sealed Japanese product, but being able to buy stuff and basically pay for my collection for free. And that kind of ramped up where I thought to myself, hey, I could do this as a side hustle. I could continue to do this, make profit from something I love doing, which I think like back then people were kind of skeptical of, like, why are you making money on this? But not everyone, like in the investing scene, people were making money, but like the typical collector, like that
Right.
just wasn't something that was talked about a lot. And so I kind of saw that opportunity in Japanese Pokemon. Hey, I enjoy this stuff. I think other people are going to enjoy this stuff too. And it just kind of ballooned to where it is now, where I have all these cool things like these boxes that I bought super cheap that now everyone
Mm,
wants because they realized how cool it was. So right place at the right time kind of catapulted me into this side hustle business.
mm. Well, if it makes you feel any better, Walrus is also skeptical, so no surprise, right?
He
But we
still
do
doesn't make money,
have
so
a. On paper, you have to lose money, PoNGa. You have to lose money. That's true. This is actually a good one, FOMO. So, do you see a way of not being desensitized as you go through this process?
it's a great question. And I don't know
Yeah.
that I have the best answer to it because it's funny that iFOMO asked this because I was thinking about it recently, like going back to 2020, like PokeRev opening like a base set box, or, every
Mm,
week he would open a Neo Gen box or something, and it was like must watch. I have to be there. This is Pokemon history. Or like Logan Paul breaking the box, whether you like him or not.
Right.
It was Pokemon history. Like, you had to watch it. And it's like, I don't know what could have been done to avoid it, but like now I see a base set box open. I'm like, oh, it's just base set. But like, no, it's like a $15,000 box that's being opened. And I just don't, for me, I don't know if it is, I don't know if desensitize is the right word, but having access to being able to see all this stuff being opened, or having access to buy really cool stuff myself, or when you get to the higher dollar amounts, buying like more expensive items, I think the amount of money that things are worth kind of does get desensitized. And I think that's kind of a good thing, when you get more comfortable buying and selling things. But I don't know for myself if I could have avoided like always enjoying watching base set. Maybe I could have been less involved, taken more breaks. Back then, 2020, 2021, it was an all day, everyday thing where I was looking at my phone, seeing what was coming out, what someone was opening. And I think to answer the question, what I could have done probably a little better, and maybe what other people could have done, was just taking more breaks, taking it a little slower at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't have to digest as much information, and then just kind of ramp up from there, and just digest things as well over a long period of time, rather than jam everything into my head as quickly as possible so I know what's going on. Do you
Well,
have a thought around that? Because I
yeah.
I I, I think about it a lot.
It touches on a couple of points actually. It goes back to how do I make sure I'm still enjoying the hobby? Because I want every week that I'm with the kids, because I need to remember why I'm doing all this. And there's a couple of different reasons at this point, in the journey. But um, to be honest, iFOMO, if you're going to, in my opinion, if you're going to refrain from desensitizing yourself from anything, it's about actually staying away from it. And you have it with such a small balance. You eat cake every day, you don't want cake. You like steak? Well, eat it every day, you don't want steak anymore. So staying away from the thing that you enjoy most and having that proper balance will keep it fresh, will keep it interesting, will keep it, I think, exciting for you. Um, but then you can't have the same goal that I want to grow in this hobby and sell more and grow a business, or have these conflicting goals. When you have those two conflicting goals, then you can't do both. And back to your point, PoNGa, if you're going at, and I was to say I am the same way. I go head in, all in. I need to know, like, what's the details, what's this, what's that, and I don't do things at 10%. So when I go all in, I've now consumed 7-10 years worth of content in a year. It's like, okay, well, now at this point I can't go back. I can't unsee. I can't undo what I've done. And I have to remember then what's the goal that I have at this point at this stage. So I don't longer say I don't want to be desensitized. I would rather say is how do I still enjoy it while achieving the other goals. And I think that's probably the best answer I can give. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he said in the chat, like, I'm far down the rabbit hole, but I still enjoy it. And I think we both still enjoy it. Like, I wake up
Yeah.
every day and I love Pokemon. It just, like, the excitement of like seeing a base set pack, like I said, being open just isn't as exciting to me as it was when I first got back into it. But I still love Pokemon. I love looking at cards. I love looking at my sealed stuff. So enjoyment and desensitizing yourself to like the price of things or how
Right.
vintage things are kind of two different things in my mind. I still enjoy it. I love it. I'm blessed every day that I get to wake up and
Yeah.
have all this stuff I have and be able to talk to great people like Pokemon Wonder and all these people every day about something that we grew up we grew up with Pokemon, right? And it's just really cool that we're still all into it. And yeah, I just don't want to put the thought out there that I don't enjoy this, because I enjoy this basically more than anything. So
Fully agree. Yeah. Those two things are not the same for sure. Yeah. Walrus says base set equals bore set. Well, and it's funny because
that's
I
facts. Hot take facts.
I still watch PokeRev when he opens that older box, usually like on his what every other Tuesday, whatever it is. I still watch it. I still
Yeah.
really enjoy him. And PokeRev, he's just an entertainer.
Yeah, he's yeah.
I enjoy. I feel like I'm at a party with him, and I enjoy watching him opening that box. And I'm never probably gonna be able to open that box, so I want to see at least somebody else open it, and seeing those artworks and the packs and the hits. And for me, that's still enjoyable. Base set probably a little bit less so, but when he does anything in EX era, getting back to maybe even Call of Legends, like those types of boxes, it's just so much fun. I really enjoy it, and I'm stuck with XY and a buff. So
Hey, that's not bad. I mean, some of that stuff is
it's
I
not
mean,
cheap. Yeah,
yeah, it's not cheap.
yeah. All right, all right. So getting it a little bit back on track. So you got the business in a sense, but did you really formulate the business as a real business at any point in time? Or was that still pending? 'Cause I know you spoke about, and again, I'm mixing the different podcasts, but I know you spoke about kind of keeping your finances under one account, just so you can make sure you have a better view of the holistic, financial picture. But do you still technically have a business, or are you still running it more as a side hustle under your personal uh, taxable income, if you will?
Yeah, it's sole proprietor, right? So,
Okay.
um, yeah, no formal business. I still treat it as a side hustle. I think the one of the most underrated things in the hobby is being able to double dip, right? Having the main income kind of
Hmm.
fund the side hustle. And I know like people like Dan always say, have a separate account and all that kind of stuff. I like having it all in one account. I use one specific card for all purchases when it comes to Pokemon, so it's very easy to track what I'm spending. And my personal account, my personal checking account, I like to have it a certain number. So it's all under one account, but in reality, like it's all like the spending aspect of it, which I think is the more important part, is all through a separate account,
Right.
right? But yeah, no formal business, no S corp or all that kind of stuff. I don't do enough volume to get all into that. I enjoy it where it is, and being able to do it on my own time. To iFOMO's point, like I get great enjoyment being able to list stuff whenever I want to,
Mm.
not needing to list stuff, not needing to source things. That's how I get more enjoyment out of it. So
And you started off actually locally. I think you said OfferUp, Facebook, things like that. Moved to eBay. Have you transitioned? Because I know you also had a goal to try to hit 1,000 items, if I remember correctly, this year. 1,000 items
yeah,
sold.
yeah. So when you say it like that, like 1,000 sales on eBay isn't a lot, but when you're not selling $2 singles and have like hundreds of listings, and your listings tend to be either like $50 to $100 graded cards, or booster boxes that are $400 or $500, getting those sales just don't happen as frequent. And so
Right.
um, yeah, I started all local, and then I primarily do TCG Player and eBay now. But yeah, one of the goals I think I spoke on before was hitting 1,000 on eBay. I don't really care about that number as much because I don't really list enough on eBay to probably get there at this point. But yeah, I mean, I like kind of having that sales outlet everywhere now, and I think not doing it local anymore was probably the best thing I ever did. I know people always call
Mm.
it FeeBay and all that kind of stuff, but eBay owns every dollar that they charge you, and I hope they're not listening, but if they increased fees, I would still sell on that platform because they do all like the tax stuff for you. They make it super easy with a spreadsheet at the end of the year to make sure you keep track of all your sales and what you spend on shipping and all that kind of stuff. And then just the pool of people you have to sell to. Like one of my biggest sales months of my life was when um, China was buying all the Japanese
Mm.
graded cards.
Yeah.
75% of my sales were going directly to China. And guess what? I didn't have to ship to China. I shipped literally right down the street from where I live
Right.
at the international hub. As soon as they got the card in hand, it was don't care what happens after that,
Done.
the sale is complete. They earn every dollar.
And a lot of that for you was V Star Universe, wasn't it?
Yeah, V-Star Universe was a killer for me. I mean, it was,
Yeah.
$1 ARs in a PSA 10 for $70. It's just like a no-brainer.
Yes,
No
please.
brainer. Yeah, no
Yes, please.
brainer.
I see Professor Oak jumping in the chat. We get the enjoyment from you too. We really appreciate you, Oak. Oak, just to kind of share a quick story, Oak, we had our monthly giveaway and box break that we did just the other day. And Oak jumped in for a few minutes and donated one of his Sun and Moon Pikachu cards, CGC 10. Great to have you there, Oak. Really enjoyed it. It was a blast. And yeah, we get our enjoyment from you as well. Yeah, good person to have in the hobby.
Yeah, I
Sincerely.
think like a lot of people like say they're for the community and all that kind of stuff, and they
He's one of them.
genuinely enjoy making other people happy. But like he's actually one of those people that
Yeah.
you could tell gets enjoyment out of other people's smiles, making sure other
Hmm.
people kind of benefit over himself. So yeah, he's great for the
Fully
hobby. He's
agree.
great. I can't wait to meet him in person. Hopefully sometime this year.
I hope so. You gotta travel. You gotta travel, Oak. But he's knee deep in schoolwork and family and work. So yeah, we'll see you soon. Finish up that degree and get out here. We want to see you and spend some time with you, Oak. So fast forwarding this a little bit now. So you're focusing now primarily online. And if you said it, I apologize. Maybe I missed it.
I kind of jumped around, so I probably
Yes.
yeah.
Well, why is it that you think stepping away from local was one of the best things you did? Is it just because of the visibility that eBay gave you? Is that what the point you were making, or was it something else?
Yeah, I think like just the buyer pool.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
during the pandemic, it was super easy to sell things local because everyone was buying Pokemon. So
Mm.
like, you know, 20 mile, let's say a 10-mile radius around me, everyone wanted what I had to sell, and it didn't matter what I
Okay.
was asking for, right? But on eBay, it's just I make a sale, I pack it in a box, slap a label on it, bring it to the post office, and it's done. And so that's primarily why. And all the in-person stuff's going to be like collecticons and all that kind of stuff
Right.
where I'm with a bunch of friends having a good time while still making money and making other people happy, selling them items that they really want. So yeah, that's kind of my point, is just the buyer pool on eBay that you have
Okay.
access to by selling on there.
And you made a statement once, and I kind of picked up on it. You said you actually don't like grading cards.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, and it's funny because I actually haven't had a membership to any grading company. The last time I graded a card was probably like August or September last year. And I just let my memberships expire because
Hmm.
the process of buying raw, grading it to sell, while yes, it makes you money, it just wasn't enjoyable to me. And
Hmm.
and that's not to say like I will probably do it again in the future because it's just such an easy thing to do to fund what I want to buy for myself. But I don't enjoy having graded cards in my collection. And earlier when I said like one of the only cards I think I actually have in my personal collection is literally like one card. Um, Something about like them being in the plastic, I don't think they look very good. I get much more enjoyment like having them all raw, nice and close together rather than having like that plastic barrier. I don't know what it is. I've never
Hmm.
gotten enjoyment looking at graded cards or enjoy collecting them myself. Now, I know a lot of people do enjoy them, and there's nothing against that, but it's just something I don't get much enjoyment out of. I don't know. It's like that feeling where I look at my sealed stuff, I get that feeling. I look at graded cards, I get no feeling.
Hmm. Do you like the binders? Because you said you want the raw cards close together. Is it a binder thing, or you actually like them in a stack and you want to flip through it?
Yeah, I actually don't collect in binders either. So
Okay.
so most of my collection's sealed. So I don't have like a ton of singles either.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
But like on my display, I mentioned on the wall that it's like one of those like collecticon type cases. Like I have some like promos and stuff like that that I enjoy around like my Lugia graded card and some sealed packs and stuff. But yeah, I just like, you know, if I ever want to look at
Okay.
some different arts or something, I like just having them in a stack and flipping through them in like card savers or something. Which
Okay.
to my own point, to give myself a counterpoint, is card savers are plastic and have the same type of barrier that a graded card has. But yeah.
It's different. It's different.
Yeah, that's the one thing
It's
about me. I'm kind of all over the place. So I
That's all
like a
right.
little bit
That's
of
all right.
everything.
We're here to unveil that to the world. That's all right.
Yeah.
It's actually quite interesting for me because one of the things I was going to mention earlier when we talked about just enjoying parts of the hobby is one of the things I enjoy so much, and I think I have like 6 recorded videos that I just haven't had time to edit lately and start to put out there. But I love doing binder collection buyouts. Not on Collecticons, but more on eBay. Like finding that really good collection, and sometimes not, but in getting that in hand and being able to go through that and just touch all those cards and pull them out, that is so much fun for me. It's so exciting. I got a great one just the other day. It was just full of Sun and Moon and XY, just nothing but ultra rares, from front to back, from trainers to the best Pokemon. It was just so much fun to go through that binder. Like somebody spent so much time putting this together. These cards were in immaculate position, or I should say condition, and it was something that I had never got to experience for those types of cards. And so going through there, it's like, okay, this one's mine, this one's mine. Put that in my binder, and I'll sell these. And it's just so much fun to go through that. So yeah, I definitely cannot relate to not enjoying that part of the process. Now, grading itself and selling them, if I can make the same amount of money selling singles raw, I would just do that instead. To be fair, I mean, I don't enjoy the grading process. It would only be because it brings a better premium for specific cards. That's the only reason I would do it. I'd
Yeah, and
prefer
I
to
will
sell
say
raw.
like the grading process now, I haven't been grading myself because I just haven't found that part as enjoyable as of late. But I've been buying a lot of graded cards actually, so just to
Mm,
like have inventory for shows and stuff. So
okay.
when I say like I don't grade, it's not that I just don't have graded cards. It's more of like I'm just finding other avenues to get them to kind of cut that whole middle process out of actually having to grade them, wait for them to return, all that kind of stuff. So, and to your point with binders, like buying other people's binders, it is very cool to see how other people organize their binders. Like, do they do it alphabetically? Do they do it in order of the set number? Do they, like, I know when I like make my binders for Collecticon, I do it like all similar cards, right? So like one
Hmm.
page will be all full art trainers. One page will be all Japanese ARs. One
Okay.
page will be all shinies. Just to like have it a little more categorized, but like other people might think that's not the best way to do it. And
Right. You gotta do
I
my
think it's
Pokemon,
cool
man.
to yeah, it's I think it's cool to just see how other people like
Yeah.
organize their binders and stuff like that.
We got another good one here from my FOMO. What in the hobby gives you the most enjoyment? Is it pulling the chase card? Is it completing a set? Is it making profit? What is it that you enjoy the most? And it sounds like maybe just looking at your sealed laid out on the table.
Yeah, I'll take the cop out answer and say making all the friends that I now have because of the hobby. I think that's kind of like
Yeah.
the easy answer, but it's true. I've met
Deeply
people that
true.
I
Yeah.
talked to. Yeah, I've met people through Pokemon that I would have never spoken to in my life because I had no way of knowing them. Right, like you, we text once in a while now, and then the other answer is really like the nostalgia factor, just like being in Pokemon my whole entire life. Um, it's just like something that's like when you did something in your childhood, it's just like indescribable how cool it is to still be doing it as an adult. And like other people, I feel like don't get that enjoyment if they don't do something like this because they just like don't understand. But it's just something about the hobby and the nostalgic factor of still
Hmm.
enjoying things I liked as a kid is the other really big thing I get out of it, or my most enjoyable piece, I'd say.
Well, and the thing that comes to mind right here is going to be we are the better version of Peter Pan.
What do you mean
So
by
we're
that?
not, we get to live in the nostalgia from our childhood and have fun, but we also have the responsibility of an adult. And we have
Yeah.
a real job, and we bring home the paycheck in this case, to support the house and the family and the wife. So we get to have the best of both worlds. We're Peter Pan, but we also go to corporate America and do our due diligence here, contribute to the world. Yeah, I like it. But mine's much of the same. I wouldn't even call it a cop out. I would just call it from the heart. I mean, so many people, and I'm not the most, especially as I get older, I'm not the most social person.
Yeah.
Going to CollectCon was uncomfortable for me, to say the least. I'm just not that guy. I used to go to concerts all the time, hang out with big groups of people, and I'm just not that guy anymore. I got older and in my 40s. I'm like, yeah, no, I'd rather stay at home. But meeting these people through the hobby has been so much fun, and by far has outweighed all the other pieces, other than spending time with my kids and the family, which would be my point number two, not necessarily in any order of priority. Um, Having that as an enjoyment piece, like we were talking with the kids on the way home from school today, I'm so excited, tomorrow's Pokemon Friday, and they've had a great week. They know they're going to get it, and we're going to go out, we're going to have our dinner and open some packs, and I look forward to it. Like it's my release every week, and I thoroughly enjoy it. Yeah. Much love to you too, iFOMO. Much love, man. All right, my friend. So we'll keep it rolling. So you evolved from local to online to in person again, but yet now traveling in person. You did a couple of collecticons. I think you did Charlotte and Houston in 2023. Is that right? Did you do more than those?
Yeah. No, Charlotte was my first one, and then at the end of the year, I did Houston. Yep.
Okay. Um, I still have not vended one, and I think I've said it a couple times before. How did you feel going through the process, other than potential hangovers and lack of food
So
and drink and weird things like that? But how did you feel
yeah,
about the actual process of selling and being there and all the people and
yeah.
talk to me?
So to back up a little bit to what you said, like not being the most social person, like I'm really good in social settings when I'm in the social setting, but the
Yes,
prep to
yes,
get to that social setting
yes,
is very stressful to me and very draining to
yes,
me. So,
yes.
watching all these
Same.
people online for years now at this point, you know, watching Dan's videos, watching Jake Pokenomics videos,
Hmm.
seeing Walrus in the chat, all these people in the chat now that I've met, um, the anticipation and the buildup of actually getting myself to go to the event was very draining. And I think
Yeah.
one of the things that made me feel a little more comfortable, and there's two, and I'll touch on both, but the first one was um, the story Mertz has told. A shout out to Mertz. The story he's told on his channel when he went to Denver Collecticon as his first Collecticon, going by himself, putting himself out there, and thinking to himself, hey, there's a chance I go here and I just sit in my hotel room all by myself. And it's very hard when you're not a super social person to get your mindset away from that. Hey, I'm going to go there. No one's going to like me. No one's going to invite me to go out to dinner. But in reality, what happens is even if you're not directly invited, just say, hey, do you mind if I tag along? Stuff like that. People are just so welcoming. So to get myself to go to Charlotte, I'm a very big prepper. So, I measured out my kitchen table, kind of, oh, Mertz is there. That guy's the best. Measured out my table, did like a mock, what's the word? Um, Kind of did like a trial of what I would want to set up on my
Customer
table.
view. Yeah.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
played around, and my wife's really creative, so she helped me organize things and made sure it looked good. And then getting there and seeing that like actually at the table and say, "Hey, look at all this. Look how cool this is." It was just like an unbelievable feeling. Um, you know, like I said, being with all those people in Charlotte, we had, I don't know, 50 something people vending or whatever it was, and then meeting people like you there. It was just like a surreal feeling, right? Like you watch these people online, you talk to them online. I mentioned a little bit before, and then you're with them in person, and they're these same exact people they are online. They're nice, they're welcoming, and then being able to make money while you're having fun with these people, and even like people that are buying from you, it's not just the interaction of getting the money. You could see the genuine enjoyment that they're getting from buying the items from you, and that
Hmm.
enjoyment just shared between the two of them in that transaction. Um, yeah, I mean, you asked me how it felt. It was just an unbelievable feeling. I just thank God I had my wife there because I wouldn't have eaten, I wouldn't have gone to the bathroom, I wouldn't have got something to drink because it's just like, you're talking to this person, you're talking to
Nonstop.
that person, you
Yeah.
just forget to do the essentials.
Yep. Yep. You'd be out there dehydrated on the floor calling for an
Oh,
ambulance. Like,
I'll jump in Houston. I mean, I almost died because she wasn't there. I didn't drink anything, I didn't eat anything, and Dan fed me way too many IPAs the night before, and that that Saturday was just very miserable because of if you ever go and vend a show, make sure you drink water, make sure you eat, and just make sure you're very hydrated. It is
Yeah.
very draining.
I uh I think I'll try one. I was talking to my wife about it. We were cooking dinner the other night, and I was talking just about some preparations for 2024, and she says, "Are you in a hurry to do it?" I said, "No, I'm not. I don't have to vend this year. That's not my priority. But I do want to do it at some point just to get the experience and go through it and do a couple of, maybe go around and do a couple of states. But yeah, it doesn't have to be this year. I'm doing so many things already this year in other areas that I'm like, yeah, it's not a priority. Financially, I want to save for a couple of other things that I want to do. So maybe it'll be 2025 before I jump in, but I'll definitely be there with you soon. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Well, if you ever vend, I'll come and buy something from you. I don't know if you remember, but I think your
Yeah.
kids picked out a couple of cards out of my binder, so I owe you a
Yeah.
sale for sure.
Well, we also got a pack of Lugia sleeves from Japan,
Oh, that's right.
and
Yeah, that's right.
it's a funny story because I got those from you, and I put them away. We got home, we put them away. We were doing other stuff. We put them away, and then my inventory started to expand, and things got moved around. We forgot, and I pulled them back out, and my son says, "Hey, I think those are mine." I said, "No, I'm pretty sure I bought these." He goes, "No, Dad, I remember we bought these at Collecticon. We were here." I said, "Well, let me think about it. I'll go back and check my records." And
Yeah.
yeah, they were his. I'm like, "Yeah, all right, here's your sleeves, son." So I said, "But if you don't want them, give them back to me because I would love to keep these. They were beautiful Lugia sleeves. So I would have loved to have kept them, but no, he took them.
Yeah, that's the other thing I didn't really mention, right? Like Japanese, even like the sleeves that they sell are just tiers above
Gorgeous.
what we get
Yeah,
here. I mean, they're just
yeah.
the artwork on boxes or sleeves, it's just S tier.
No, you're missing the point, Lars. The point is as we said earlier, distance away from the thing that you want makes you want it more. So I just had to hold it just a little while so that he really wanted the sleeves and he took better care of them. It was a lesson. It was a lesson. Those are father things you'll learn later. You'll learn later.
Yeah.
One of the things I really enjoyed that you said, PoNGa, was, and this is paraphrasing, of course. You talked about fair prices, in a sense, being honest, creating good business, ultimately, then creating repeat customers. And I think that's just sound advice for any business, not just Pokemon. Talk to me a little bit about how are you executing that through your evolution? How do you stand behind the honesty, the pricing, the repeat customers? How do you make that a reality as you've continued to evolve?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start back from my very beginning when I was selling those Shiny Star V boxes. When I sold the box, like I wanted them to pull the shiny Charizard every time, right? Like I never got jealous when they sent me the
Mm,
$300 card they just pulled out of a pack. I'm happy for them.
yep.
One, they found value in what I sold them, which makes me feel good because hey, I'm making money off of them. Like I want them to get value out of it and not necessarily like rip them off. And then two, when people buy stuff and they enjoy the experience and they get something out of it, they like to come back to you. And so, I bring
Right.
that to now collecticons, jumping years later into collecticons. I don't, a lot of vendors will price a pack for a dollar or two more than what you could buy them for on TCG Player. I'm looking at TCG Player and probably knocking a little bit off of it. Why? Because they feel like they won, they got a good deal, and I'm still making money as well. So it's not always just about maximizing the profit up front. It's kind of like slowly building that profit over an extended period of time. Like in Houston, I worked out this deal with this guy and his kids, and now I have his phone number, and he was like, I'm going to contact you next year and make sure we do these trades and all this stuff. And it's just like finding the mutual benefit out of every transaction, I think is good for the long run. And it just like, I don't know. I think it's good for the long run. And I think it's just good business to make it fair on both sides. When I say that, I'm not going to sell something a $400 box for $300, right? But I might sell it for $380 in person, which is $20 cheaper than what they could probably buy it for online. So it still feels
Right.
like a good deal. So that's just kind of what I try to do.
And do you still transpose that into eBay and now your online places? You still try to take that same approach, or does that change?
Yeah, so the online sales is a little different because you obviously are paying fees and shipping, but I mean if I'm listing something, I'm listing it low list, right? Now like a $50 graded card, I'm probably undercutting by a cent. Um, Sealed
Right.
stuff maybe a few dollars, but yeah, I think online sales versus like in-person face-to-face sales are two different things. When I like sell a item online, I might be the cheapest option on the market. That's not necessarily much cheaper than the next best option, but I'm going to make sure I bubble wrap it too much, which I love overpacking. I'm going to make sure it gets to you exactly how you want to receive it, right? Like if I sell this box back here and it's in mint condition in the pictures, I want to make sure it gets to you in mint condition because I know how much I value that when I receive things. So I think, in person, I might give you a better deal, but online, I'm going to give you more of the experience of having a positive interaction from
Hmm.
the time you purchase to the time you actually receive the item.
Hmm. He says everyone's mature until they get bubble wrap.
Hey, bubble wrap is at a premium. I
Yeah.
save every sheet of bubble wrap. I make sure I don't even pop them anymore, which is harder for me not to pop them than it is to open some of my sealed stuff. I'll tell you that because your initial reaction when you get bubble wrap is just to pop them.
just, just squeeze it.
Yeah.
Everything I get now in the mail, whether it's Amazon orders or whatever, not the boxes so much every time, but it's more like the packing stuff. Everything goes into like shipping inventory, so it just everything gets stocked away. I haven't had to buy anything for I don't know how long,
Yeah.
other than like
I say
typical card stuff. Yeah,
I have like hundreds of boxes that like, and it's funny because like when I go to pack something, I never have the right size box, but like I have 100 boxes to choose from. So it's like, and it's not like, at my scale, it's not that big of a deal to like take an extra 10 seconds to look for the right size box, but like, it's not like optimized for my time, but
right.
yeah, it's just part of the process that makes it a little fun is reusing materials and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff rather than making things as optimized as I possibly can.
Well, funny story. I haven't told this one because it just happened. We were getting something. Oh, we were putting away decorations in the attic, and my wife says, "Well, hey, I can help you." And I said, "Well, I don't think you need to go to the attic right now because it's not in the best condition. This is where I stored all my boxes." And so she gets up in the attic, and she takes a look. She goes, "Oh my God!" It's nothing but a sea of boxes. All her decorations, all her Christmas stuff, it's just hidden behind a sea of boxes and bubble wrap and all kinds of stuff everywhere. I said, "Well, what you're seeing looks really bad, but it's really just a bunch of empty stuff. So it's not as bad as it looks. I just haven't broken it down. But I actually did take that time that weekend and I broke it all down. I got rid of a few that weren't in the best condition, but broke it all down, organized them by size. I have one big box for just packing stuff. I have another big box for, bubble wrap, and one's for like the cardboard paper. So just kind of putting all that together and making sure that I have each little piece, and then I have some of the more reusable things that I use on a daily basis, just readily available. But yeah, having it organized did help a lot and made a lot of extra space. So if you don't break down your boxes, people break them down, organize them.
Yeah, mine are broken down.
So
I probably need to do a better job at like organizing them by
yeah,
size, so I
yeah,
don't have to look through 100 boxes.
yeah,
It's always the issue is always the smallest ones. Like I always
yeah.
have like boxes for ETBs or something like that, but having a small box to fit like a single sleeve pack or something is where it gets a little difficult.
I started using a little bit of a side here, but I started using the cardboard 6x8 self seal for a lot of those things because I can put it in a bubble mailer, slip that bubble mailer inside of that 6x8, and so it's rigid. If somebody drops it, nothing gets damaged, and it costs me like whatever 10 cents or less than that. So it's well worth it. To your point, I'd rather them get the product and be happy with it than I would anything ever happen in shipping and then a good product turn into a damaged product. Yeah.
Yeah,
If anyone throws away boxes they get and not use them later, you're not doing it right. Exactly. Exactly. That's what every good
absolutely,
dad does.
Walrus.
Yeah. Save every piece of wood, every nail, every box you get. Just it's got a purpose. Don't worry, you'll find it later. So I love how you tie it all back together. In a sense, if you allow me to restate it this way, trying to put the customer first while still keeping common sense and financials in mind, but making sure they have that good experience, whether it's in price, whether it's in product or delivery, whatever the case may be. Um, as you look to grow your business, or actually, as maybe a different way to say it, are you looking to grow it more? Because you made a comment that I like it where it is. Are you actually trying to grow the business to a certain size, and how are you going to manage that? Because you clearly sound like you don't want to leave your corporate job.
Yeah, it's that's a tough question because with growth, that obviously means more time, and
Yeah.
having a little less ability to kind of turn it on and off. I think you touched on it a little bit before we started that you can't wait a day to package something and ship it out. But if I don't list stuff to sell, then I never have to ship stuff out,
Mm,
right? And so I always have that inner dilemma and issue where,
mm,
well, maybe I should list this stuff, but then it's going to sell and then I have to do a bunch of work. And that's the route to increase my sales and my business. But on the other side of things, that takes a little bit of the enjoyment out of it. So I kind of like where I am at the current moment. I have a big backlog of sealed stuff that I could sell at any moment. And I kind of do that balance where I'll go a few months where I sell a ton of stuff to get more capital for other things I might want to buy. Yeah. So to answer your question, I think for the current moment, I'm kind of happy where I am. I like being in a place where I have enough inventory for shows, and I'm going to do 2 or 3 of them this year. So I like having enough there, but then also having that time factor on my side where,
mm.
hey, after my 9 to 5, I could go to the gym, play Call of Duty at 8 p.m. at night, or jump on this live for a couple hours with you instead of feeling like I need to pack for 3 hours or list stuff on eBay. So it's that inner dilemma where I know what's best is probably to grind a little more, but at the same time, I'm kind of happy double dipping it and keeping it as a small to medium sized side hobby.
Do you sincerely never want Pokemon to outperform your job?
So that's I don't I don't have plans to replace it as my main income, if that answers your question in a different way. So, I mean, there's a percent chance out there that what I currently have appreciates so much that that income, if I sell it, will overcome my current income and my corporate position. But I don't have plans to go full time until I'm the only way I would do that is if either A, my backlog got so big that money isn't really that big of an issue at that point because it's guaranteed income that I could liquidate over a long period of time. Or two, oh, I don't even know if there's a second option. It would be like just being in it's the financial stability that I really like in my corporate position, and that kind of limits what I can do outside of it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but um
Yeah,
I
kind of,
don't want
kind
it
of.
to
It
replace
is.
my main. I don't want it to replace my main income, at least yet. Like I don't think I would leave my current position to do Pokemon by myself full time. Now, if you told
Right.
me I could get a salaried position in some sort of collectible market, whether that be Pokemon or something, would I pursue that? Possibly. But I was thinking about this a little bit earlier, and it's like the benefits of having that corporate position, 401k match, um, you know, my company offers like stock programs where I basically get 15% free. So a 15% discount essentially. Like all that stuff would need to be insignificant to me to want that. to want to go full time or have that income replace my main current income. That was a very confusing way to say that, but I think the proper answer to your question is no.
That's okay. I don't mind nuanced answers. That's where things get fun. Um, you know, the way you limit yourself in terms of listing, you control that from getting to the point where you see that as a possibility. You say, you know what, I don't want to do that much work. Whatever the case is, I'm busy at work. I'm just not going to list anything for 3 weeks. You control the potential of what could be there. Um, and I definitely understand your point of view, because I've shared similar thoughts and just concepts in previous lives. And you're still younger than me by quite some years, so I won't say too many things to to squander your dreams, but if you can do what you love and sustain yourself beyond your current capabilities at your corporate job, it could be something very interesting.
Yeah,
I'll leave it there because I don't want to go too. I want to push you.
yeah, no, that's it. That's well said. I need to be financially stable to even think about that. That's what I'll leave it at.
Yeah. Well, and you are again. I'm making some assumptions here, but some observations as well. To your point, you're very structured. You're very organized. Um, let's call it even a little because I'm the same OCD in some ways. So stepping into something that's unknown is deeply scary. Just a very extreme example to say, hey, what, I got whatever, let's call it $500,000 in the bank from 401k. I'm going to quit my job today and I have X amount in my bank account for savings and I'm going to survive from here forward on Pokemon. That is such a huge unknown. It would be very difficult for most people to take that jump, especially with a very secure job that you're growing in. You just got a new position. Um, that's just not something most people will think about. In the
And it's like
future,
once
yeah,
you cross
yeah,
that threshold too, like this goes like this isn't I can't have this anymore in my mind. Like everything needs to go. And I see Retro in the
mm-hmm.
chat like and I've heard him talk about it a ton because he's
Good to see you, Retro.
primarily like into the flipping game.
Yeah.
Like what like you
Oops.
in my mind like I can't own anything anymore if I went full time because it is possible capital that I could use for my business. And so instead of letting this box sit here and
Yeah.
appreciate over 5 years, I could flip that same money 10 times, 20 times a year and my profits would go through the roof compared to what that's going to appreciate to. So there's like a fine line and I'm
Right.
sorry I cut you off, but it's like I needed to
That's
get
okay.
that point out there that it's like if I ever made that jump, I feel like all my enjoyment of having that sealed stuff that we touched on earlier would just go away because I wouldn't feel like I could own these things anymore.
And that's actually one of the things as you know, I've asked most of the guests and try to get their point of view. And one of the most inspiring ones was from Rusty last week. And even at his size, he still he stepped away from the LGS store so he could collect. No, and also spend time with his family. But he realized he wasn't collecting anymore and he stepped away. But yet he still has a business of magnitudes well above all of us, right? Many of us. Um, and so he's found a way. It's possible. And I'm telling Mason, I'm telling Rob at RNG-Gamez, I'm telling you, I'm telling me, it's possible to have a collection and have a successful Pokemon business.
Yeah, but so I don't want to dive too deep into that because it's possible, but when you look at the people that do it, they're financially to the point where they could afford to not have that money in their business, right? Like your point, like Rusty built his collection over a long period of time when stuff was cheaper. A lot of that stuff appreciated. He was able to use that capital selling that stuff to build up his collection to the point and his net worth to the point where now he could afford to purchase those things again. So yes, to your point, it's very possible, but for me, it would have to be way down the road because I need to be
Okay.
financially in a place where that stuff makes sense again.
FOMO says, I convinced myself that the cards are for the people, not for me. I don't believe you, FOMO. I think you got plenty of collection pieces. I think you're just saying that to jump in here, man. That's all right. That's all right. Maybe before we move on to some of the next topics, man, I was actually wanting to know some of the ideas and the plays that you've had here recently. You spoke a little bit about you like the Pokemon Center ETBs. What have you been dabbling in? What are you testing on the business side of things for you in Pokemon space?
Yeah, so when I kind of jumped out of grading as much as I used to, I kind of went back to just buying more sealed stuff. So a lot of Japanese boxes are super cheap right now, so trying to buy those. Shout out to Retro. I have been saying it in every single live. I'll be buying from you soon. But just going back to sealed, it's what I know best. It's what works best for me. So most of my plays, like like buying 151 Pokemon Center ETBs when those were out, selling some of them, breaking them down for packs to bring to CollectCon, selling the promos for like $30, which is the most ridiculous thing in the entire hobby. How much those stamped promos sell for and release. But yeah, recently like flipping plays, I haven't been doing like anything super in depth. It's mostly just like
Okay.
looking into my collection or inventory, you know, when I want to
That's not
go
listed.
and sell. Yeah, well, yeah. So, I kind of have a different strategy, right? Like some people might have like a price target or like percentage. I do everything based off feel, right? So it's like if I feel like something's appreciated to the point in which either I'm uncomfortable having it at that price or feel like the market's valuing it more than I am at the current time,
Yeah.
I might sell like a case or something, right? And then turn that money into like Lost Origin booster boxes or something, right? When that got reprinted, or Shining Treasure because it's 35, $40 a box right now, or stuff like that. So it's more of like yeah, it might not always be listed, but when I do decide to list things, I'm very strategic with how I
Very
list it. So like,
intentional. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, leave my eBay alone. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
sorry.
yeah, it's very intentional the things I'm selling. Like, recently I sold some boxes of Tag Team All Stars, the Japanese special or high class set. I bought those boxes when they were $40. I was able to sell them for $450 cash. I know, or I think those boxes are worth more than that because of what they have inside of it. But at the current moment, they've been stagnant for so long. I thought it was okay to take some profit into that or out of that and put it into something like Shiny Treasure or V Star Universe, stuff like that. So, yeah. So, to answer your question, like nothing super in depth flipping wise recently, just kind of trying to get as much inventory as I can for the 3 shows that I'm going to do later this year. One of them's local too, so I get to bring a lot of my sealed stuff, which is really awesome for me.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. Local is the way to do it, man. Do you really track your inventory that detailed? You being the type of person you are, I would assume you have like the biggest massive spreadsheet. You've maxed out the number of rows that Excel will allow you to have.
So the first couple of years, I used to have a spreadsheet that tracked every set an item was from, every item, like if it was an ETB booster box, where I bought it from, the price I bought it from, what I paid for tax on that item if it wasn't tax exempt, what I spent on shipping, what I sold it for, the platform I sold it on, all this stuff. And I used to track every single transaction I ever made. And yeah, to your point, I do still have that spreadsheet and it's thousands of cells. But at this point, like tracking my inventory, I need to be better at that. But I don't currently know some things I own, which is a problem at times. I have a good idea of like, I know I have like 5 boxes of this or 10 boxes of that, but like value wise, like I don't track prices. I don't know what stuff is worth until I go to sell it. So it's a little bit uncomfortable not tracking it like I know I should be. And I know for
Okay.
like, I talk to my wife about this all the time. Like, I want to get my stuff insured as well, just in case something were to happen. And I need to be better at tracking, having a general idea of what everything's worth. So I can go through that process and getting it properly insured. But yeah, to answer your
Okay.
question, like I don't track my inventory as well as I should.
Okay. And that's probably one of the reasons that I am everything, well, not everything, but 99% of the things that's not my PC, it's listed. Now, some things I list just super high because I don't really want to sell it. I'll just list it and put some crazy price on it. But the rest of the things, singles especially, I want it all listed so I have a very clear inventory, very clear market price. I hit one button to get a report, and here it is, and I know exactly what I have. And again, excluding PC, but that's why everything I have. It bothers me because I got a stack of the BCW card sorting tray right here beside me. Um, I don't want to have cards pending to be put away. To me, that's potential money just sitting there that nobody can buy. So I'd rather have it on the market and have it listed and be ready to sell at any point in time.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier, right? Like my sealed packs, like I do list it for some obscene price, and sometimes they do sell, but to this point, and it's not guaranteed or nothing's for sure, but a lot of the stuff I don't have listed has gone up in price, so I'm glad I didn't list it, right? And like
Yeah, just sure.
and like it's not like some strategic, well, I mean there's some strategy, like I purposely target things to buy more than others, but
Right.
not listing stuff sometimes has its benefits for me.
It does. It
And
does.
if I don't need that capital, it is dead capital, right? But if I'm not going to use that capital for something, then like to me in my mind, I don't think of it as significant as just like sitting there as dead money. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
my brain's a little too complex and I think about things a little bit too much, but what I've been doing
That's
has
right.
worked for me, so I'll continue to do it until it stops working.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I have to agree with you. The medium rare steak, not liking it, super sus. Yeah, super sus retro. All right,
That's fine.
so we're hitting you from both sides, PoNGa. Sorry, man. Sorry. But there is one thing before we leave the business topic that I want to ask. This is probably the last one in the space, at least for now. We'll have a couple of things that weave into it later. But you've done a lot of things over the past, wow, 4 years now, in selling and starting out and moving through different areas and different progressions. And it's always important for us, I think, to share with others, those lessons that we've learned, some things that we want to do better. We look at ourselves in the past and say, that was just stupid. Why did I do it like that? So what are some of those things that you've learned that you can share with the audience to say, hey, I was doing this and maybe this, and now I've changed it and I look at it this way and I execute it like this.
Oh man, that's a tough question. Something I probably should reflect on a little more. From like stepping away from the one comes to me, but it's like less business related. It's not getting so not being too like direct with my opinions on things. And by that I mean like stating things in a way where it's like this is the right way when like I don't necessarily mean it that way, but it comes off that way. So that's like one mistake I used to make a lot, like specifically like in like smaller Discord communities that like none of the people like in that are watching are probably part of, but getting in like confrontations because of that. I could get a little heated sometimes, but so that's like my
Really?
my first thing that yeah, so that's like my first thing that when I feel really strongly about something, sometimes I could be a little bit too direct. From the business side of things, I'd say stick stick to things that you enjoy. And by that, I mean, I've tried to expand into different card games or, hopped on the new hype train for some Kickstarter TCG. And while I might have still
MetaZoo.
made money, well, listen, we could talk about MetaZoo because I'd love to share. everyone ragged on it for so long, and they were just letting money sit there and not make it. So we could touch on that later, but
Yeah,
you
sure.
know, sticking to what I enjoy, sealed, Pokemon mainly, um, I think brings the best success. I think, having some diversification is good in some areas, but for me, what I've learned is like just kind of staying in my wheelhouse, sticking to the things I know really well, and I'm confident in. And I feel like when I do that, I'm able to make better purchasing decisions, better um, decisions when I want to go sell things. So yeah, that's what I'd say. Just stick to the things you enjoy. Don't spread yourself too thin. Don't feel like just because one piece is blowing up, you have to go buy cases of One Piece and hop on the train if you don't know anything about One Piece just to make a quick buck.
Yeah, good advice. And I've actually had that thought several times over a given month. One of the things that limits me the most is time. Like, I don't have time to start another TC. Like, I really do. I don't. I can't. I can't. Pokemon is it. That's it. I don't care what else comes out. And unless it dies, maybe I'll reconsider completely. But I have no desire to start. I mean, I did open 4 packs of Disney Lorcana, but I just wanted to see what the cards were like. I wasn't trying to make money. I just wanted to say, hey, what's this all about? Everybody's pretty excited. Let me see it. I want to touch it. I want to feel it. But I actually stopped at the 3rd pack. I didn't even open the 4th one. But I have no desire to jump another TCGs whatsoever. I don't want the inventory. I don't want to have to deal with it. I don't want to have to sell it. To your point, I'll stick to exactly what I know.
Yeah, the only
Uh,
time I've lost money buying and selling is when I spread myself too thin and kind of jump into
mhm,
something I'm not super educated about, or some new
exactly.
thing
Yeah.
like Lorcana or Dragon Ball
Yeah.
Super or Digimon when it first came out. So I just feel like you're able to make more educated decisions, and
Yep.
you know I'd say like a lot of sealed items, like you're kind of speculating that things might go up, but you're able to speculate a little more intelligently when you do it
Agreed.
on things that you know, and you know how people are going to receive that item in the future,
Yep.
or at least you think you know how those people are going to receive that item.
Way better than guessing, right? Way better.
Yeah, yeah.
But I will go back to your previous point, because it's actually quite intriguing to me. And we spoke about it a little bit in the pre-call. We're able to change the way we converse depending on the environment that we're in. If we're in our corporate jobs, we're able to deliver our presentations and our meetings to leadership in a certain way. Here in the Pokemon space, on a live, maybe we then have a certain set of guidelines of which we follow. 10 IPAs deep with Dan at the bar is a whole nother set of language. So it's surprising to me that you found yourself being too direct in the Pokemon space. I don't think that's how you would be in the corporate world, right? I mean, if I had to guess, I would be
Well,
pretty sure that you
sometimes
would.
sometimes you make the mistake. Sometimes you make the
Okay.
mistake. Um,
Okay.
I'm not the best, and I don't claim to be the best at like doing that corporate game, which I think you probably know. But that's a whole nother discussion, and I don't know if I want to get onto it in the live, but
Okay.
um,
Okay. No worries.
yeah, it's yeah. To your point, yeah. Sometimes I too
Okay.
direct, I think, but
Okay. Well, and it's funny because I've been a victim of it myself, and me being a boomer in many ways. I forget who it was exactly. Um, I was in a Discord, I think in one of Oak's channels, and somebody had said something, and they were joking. I think it was even E Unit, to be honest with you. Now that I'm
stonk
thinking
dog.
about it, yeah, exactly. And he said something. I'm like, oh my god, like if he really thinks this, like let me just make sure I message him and like out of the best interest of his well being, like please don't do that because that sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah.
And in Discord, the point here is that in Discord text messages, so on and so forth, so many things get lost in context, especially for people like me that don't get jokes. I'm like, well, that can't be good. And so when we joke and we kid and we pull a walrus, yeah, I'm gonna start using your name like that, walrus, from here on out. When we pull a walrus,
walrus.
yeah, people they don't get it, we go too far, at least in their opinion. So, yeah, we got to reel it back. We got to reel it back. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
You are
I
now, yeah,
love
for
it.
sure.
Yep, that's right. Don't pull a walrus. That's it. Hashtag 2024.
Yeah, I think to what you were saying, like Discord could be kind of a dangerous place because you don't always get when people are using sarcasm, and my best way to get away from that is to be honest, like I just don't really read the Discords much anymore. Except like when big news drops, I might see what a couple people's opinion is, but like the day to day, like
Yeah.
it's just so draining. It just yeah, it's just not as necessary to my day to day as it used to be. I used to be on Discord like 20 hours a day, but
Mm.
I kind of reeled that back because of, I don't always need to share my opinion on what's being discussed like I used to, all that kind of stuff. Not everyone needs to have my thoughts when they don't ask for it. So
I gotta know, were you the guy yelling at the other gamers in Call of Duty, like screaming at them? Was that you?
when I was younger, I used to be very Xbox Live or Xbox
Yeah.
360 game chats, specifically for Call of Duty, were a very different time. And I'm glad that those aren't recorded and put on the internet because some people would have definitely been canceled a long time ago because that
Yeah,
was like the Wild West, right? I mean, that's
it was. Yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
was
to,
there.
to answer your question, I used to get very mad playing video games. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that. I can see that. That's the
Yeah.
baseball player in you coming out. I get
Yeah,
it.
it's the
I get
competitiveness, right? Like,
it.
you do those things at like your corporate job where you like take those trainings that like show you what color you are. And like I'm
Mhm.
kind of like a hybrid of red and blue. Red being competitiveness, all that kind of stuff, and then, red being direct and, you know, not empathetic and all that kind of stuff. And then blue being like the super analytical. And then you kind of learn like the opposites of that. Like, hey, if you're too blue, some people might see you as like not,
Yeah.
you don't care what's going on and all that kind of stuff. So I try to balance myself between everything as much as I can, knowing where I won't say my weaknesses, but where I lack, and
Right.
try to account for that when I portray myself out on the internet.
What's your favorite Call of Duty, PoNGa?
Sorry, Walrus's message.
Yeah.
Um, oh man, yeah, we all found that out, Walrus. So mine's a very unpopular answer, and I'm going to answer this in two ways. So my favorite one of all time was Call of Duty World at War, which tends to be one of people's least favorite ones. So it was the one following Call of Duty 4, which was a big hit, and a lot of
Mm.
people actually kept playing Call of Duty 4 when World at War came out. But me and my friends were when the leaderboards came out, we were some of the best players in the world back then. On the leaderboards and stuff, and we used to play like in like set up tournaments and stuff. And then I'd say from like a competitive perspective, so I'm big into competitive Call of Duty, specifically like the Call of Duty League, the Pro League. I've been watching that for
Okay.
like 15 years.
Wow.
And from like the competitive standpoint, everyone's answer is always Black Ops 2.
Yeah. Modern Warfare was
Yeah,
a good one. Yeah. Yeah.
to Walrus's point, I like all games that are made by Treyarch,
Mm.
which Modern Warfare 2 is Infinity Ward.
Yeah, there was many dark things said on those early days, Walrus. Many dark things. I'm sorry you had to find out that way, but it explains so much. Explains so much.
Hey, by the way, those Modern Warfare games are very good as well. I just happen to be very, very good at the Treyarch games, so I enjoyed those a little better.
NW2, yeah, was your favorite.
MW2 is a very good game as well.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I gave you a
Ernie,
shout out earlier.
MP40,
Yeah.
MP40, best gun ever, baby. Dual mag, stopping power. If you're feeling a little frisky, put some Juggernaut on that.
Yeah, turn the volume down. This is where PoNGa starts yelling at you. Well, I want to congratulate you, first of all. So you started a new podcast with Beerski. Box
Yeah, shameless plug. Someone
Nostalgia.
post the link in the chat. Is there a mod?
It's in the description as well.
Oh, let's
I already
go.
got you. Yeah, I already got you
Nice.
covered, buddy. So check it out, guys. First episode dropped last week, right? Last week it
Thursday.
was.
Yeah, so we're going to
Yeah.
do every other Thursday, and the reason for that is Beerski goes live on his channel the weeks in between that. So
Okay.
while we're starting out, we're just going to keep it as every other week for now. We're going to do occasional lives here and there. Maybe some plans at some collected cons to do a in-person show as well. Maybe have some guests
Okay.
on for that in-person show. So yeah, it's fun so far. Beerski's a really great guy. He is one of those guys that I could be negative at times, and he is always positive. If you've seen that in his lives or when he's been on other channels, he
Yeah.
is always happy, putting exclamation points, being the life of the party. So he balances me out really well, and I'm really glad that we started that up.
What was the why behind joining the podcast and doing something joint? What was the
Yeah,
story?
so he invited me on his channel, and we spoke after, and we felt like we just kind of clicked. Like we felt
Yeah.
like we had a good on-screen presence together. And obviously that'll improve while we get more comfortable, specifically me. Like I haven't done that many videos or lives and stuff like that, but um and we just had similar interests, right? Like we both love Pokemon and are deep into Pokemon, but like our real roots growing up were also like video games, Call of Duty, Halo,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So we decided, I think I was on his channel late last year, and I kind of took a break from Pokemon content in general for like a month and a half, December, early January, where I wasn't really around. And he was waiting on me for that. But then recently, a couple of weeks ago, we decided to finally get that going and kind of put together a more structured podcast where we have segments, and it's a little bit, it's still long form content, but it's a little shorter, where we do the same weekly or bi-weekly, fortnightly topics, and people could look forward to them. They could suggest what we talk about, stuff like that, rather than the typical question and answer, or what you do is really just interview someone and make sure the audience really gets to know them. So I feel like there was a little bit lacking out there of, at least in the Pokemon investment space, of more structured segment based podcasting.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I must say I really enjoyed the first one, and I would definitely concur. You guys have definitely seen a synergy. What your upbringings, what you experienced, separately, but now bringing those two worlds together, it really fits in nicely. So I enjoyed it. I think I made like 4 or 5 comments in the first video, so I look forward to the next one. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's only going to
Um,
get better. Like
yeah.
I'll stop doing the fillers, I thinks, ums. It's funny because you don't know how hard it is to film a long form
Live.
content
Yeah.
video without the live chat, right? Because like right now we're talking, but in between our chats or our topics, like you could refer back to the chat, get comments, bounce off them. But when you're filming something with no live chat, it's very hard to keep the conversation going and
Mm.
flowing in a way that isn't interrupted. So that's something I've learned recently, is being prepped, making sure we prepare, which we did earlier today for the next episode that's coming out next week. So yeah, it's a fun experience. I never thought I'd be doing content on a channel that I partly own. I used to always say I would never do it, but here we are.
Yeah. And you expanded. I mean, now you got your own YouTube, also link below in the description. You had now, I think you hit your 4th subscriber with Navi Station, so appreciate that Navi Station. I was number 2, so
Hey,
I'm just
I will
calling
say,
it.
if you're gonna subscribe to a channel, do it to the podcast channel. There's no plans currently to have content on my own channel.
Ah, that's disappointing, PoNGa. I figured you created it because you had some vision in mind. You were gonna start spreading out in a couple different places.
No, I need to
No?
start I need to start focusing on other social medias like my Instagram. I need to post more on there before I start making YouTube videos.
Yeah, when you said you didn't have much on me to research, you weren't kidding. That's slim pickings. Slim
Yeah.
pickings.
Well,
Yeah.
you could go through Discord chats. You could go down a whole
Yeah.
rabbit hole if you go into like the paid Discords and stuff of my chat and my history, but I'm glad you probably didn't.
I thought about it. I was like, you know what? That's all right. I got enough here. I think I'm okay. If I go down a rabbit hole of Discord, it could get dark really quick. So even though you delete half your stuff, but that's okay.
Oh no, that's only the jokes though, because some of the stuff like you joke about, like it's not like inappropriate or anything, but if you refer back to it later on, you don't get kind of the context it was put out there in, and
Yeah.
someone could like try to use that against you. And like I just it's like a trust issue, right? Like I don't know who's gonna see that and like take it out of context or like make a video, like look what this guy said. And it's like, well, that's not how it was said. And I just like to try to avoid that.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. It's funny in the moment. Let everybody enjoy it, and then a day later delete it. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
all right, man. Do want to speak a little bit as well about how you see things in the market, because anytime people are in some spaces that I'm not in, I'm very curious to see what your perceptions are, because we all have different points of view. How has the Japanese side been for you lately? Are you still sourcing at decent prices? Is your margins dropping? What's your perspective on your Japanese, I would say, connections and buy and selling experience?
Yeah. So a lot of prices are going down pretty quickly. I mean, even something as strong as like 151, we were seeing prices of like up to 200. Now you could purchase them in like the 140s shipped. So it's dropped a pretty considerable amount.
Hmm.
The way I look at it, it's another opportunity to buy in if you really enjoy it or believe in it. And you know, I think a lot of people look at the prices dropping and they think, oh, look at Shiny Treasure being $35, $40 a box, but they forget that VMAX Climax was also at that price for a time period. Shiny Star V was at that price for a time period. Tag Team All Stars, which is now $450 a box, was readily available for $38 to $40 shipped for a year.
Hmm.
So I think like prices being down or near retail for an extended period of time isn't necessarily a bad thing. It gives everyone a chance to buy in or get items that they might want to buy. And I think people need to, and this is a generalization because I'm going to say people need to without saying like a direct set of people, but um, people need to like relax and not everything needs to stonk or go to the moon quickly, right? Like if you believe in Pokemon, you have fun in Pokemon, you enjoy investing or collecting, you need to be patient. And if you really believe, the time doesn't really matter. So I've been treating this most recent downturn um, just giving myself the opportunity to source more if I want it. So I
Okay.
look at it as a good thing. Like even like when you look at like the English side of things, like people get really deterred when reprints happen. Um,
Right.
but it's like if reprints are happening, that probably means the set's in demand. And if prices go to the moon really quickly, people don't ever get to enjoy that product, to develop that relationship with the product and really enjoy it. So I'm kind of in the mindset that like I'm fine with prices being super low for a long period of time. Like let people enjoy it before it gets out of hand, if it gets out of hand.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Okay, so I mean, things are cooling off, but once again, much like many of those situations where the price drops, that's when it's a great time to buy and stock back up. Um, kind of maybe balancing from there from physical to the digital, with the new announcements from Pokemon on some of their latest and greatest, upcomings. One of the things that's been talked about in a couple different contexts is the Pocket game coming out. Now, it's for me being a TCG online player as well as in person, and having rip packs on TCG online. It's basically just a simpler version of that, in my opinion. But they're actually going after a different market. They're going after younger kids. They're going after people who maybe don't know as much about the TCG and trying to get them into the game. Keep it simple, which I think is genius. It's a great idea. But then there's that whole idea of digital assets, and I've mentioned it a couple of lives ago as well. I was driving to my grandmother's house, and my wife asked me, "Do you think all the Pokemon cards will go digital?" And I gave her my answer. And um, me being in the tech space as well, when NFTs and all these other things came out, I looked at all of that and I was like, We're not even close, in my opinion. More on the technology side and other areas, blockchain. So this is not. It's a great idea. It has potential. The people aren't ready for this. It's not there. What is your thoughts on what's happening specifically within Pokemon in the digital space, and where do you think it's going to go in the next maybe 3 or 5 years?
Yeah, and I'll some of my answer will relate it to other markets that some of the stuff's already done in, but I didn't watch the video or the announcement, or I've gotten like some like I've seen like the Moltres and stuff like that, the cards that are
Okay.
going to be like exclusive to that. But I've heard people talk about it, and to your point, what I grasped from it, it's like a simpler version where I think you're going to
Yep.
be able to like play the game in a more simplified way, and I think that's really good for maybe people like me that don't have the will to go learn and become a master, where I could just log on my phone, open a few packs, and go from there. But I see there's a lot of other markets outside of Pokemon that do something similar, right? Like there's collecting apps when it comes to like sports cards
Yeah.
that I used to do, like collecting digital sports cards, specifically the baseball version. I think there's like a Tops app or whatever, and you could like collect all the sets and like get rewards for collecting the sets. And then like if you like dumb it down even a little more, like you could make the argument that something like this in Pokemon is like similar to collecting skins in video games or buying
Oh,
skins and all
right.
that kind of stuff. And that's like a sort of like an NFT. But yeah, I mean, I guess I see a world in which it's like they coexist. I could see myself logging onto the app and opening my 2 free packs a day. Now, will I ever put money into it? Probably not, unless like there's some sort of market in which you could resell stuff. I'm not a person to buy microtransactions in anything I play. I like to grind and sell my soul and my time to achieve what I need to achieve rather than buying it. So, to shortly answer your question, I think I don't know that at least in the foreseeable future will transition completely to digital when it comes to Pokemon or NFT based cards or digital
Right.
cards. But I could see a situation in which they coexist. Maybe like if you were to put a percentage on it, like 80% real tangible Pokemon cards and like maybe 20% digital, when it comes
Yeah.
from like the market perspective. But to your point, I don't think we're ready for that. I mean, I'm still pretty young and I'm not ready for that. Like I still don't even understand completely like NFTs and
Yeah.
blockchain and all that kind of stuff. Like, and I'm not sure many people do besides the people that are super hardcore or in the tech space that need to know that stuff for their position. But yeah, it's hard to believe that we're going to go all digital anytime soon. People like having stuff in their hand rather than just on a screen on their phone.
Yeah. I mean, even my 9 and 5-year-old sons. I mean, they've ripped packs on TCG Live before, but when they rip the packs in person, like they want to hold the card, they want to sleeve it, they don't go back and say, "Hey, Daddy, can I go back and look at that card I pulled last week on TCG?" They don't ask me to go back and look at it. They say, "Daddy, I want to trade that card you got yesterday from that binder collection you bought." I said, "No, no, 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 no. I need those
Did they
Lugias
did
things
they say
first."
there's going to be like? Did they mention? They probably didn't because it was probably some brief announcement. Did they um, mention anything about there being like a marketplace for it, or is it like where you could buy and sell stuff? Because I think if it turns out there is one, I think that would be more enticing for like people like me that don't necessarily care as much for just playing the game or something.
They only mentioned trading so far.
Okay.
So that's the start. That's the foundation. So they could easily connect the way you buy to the way you trade, and then make that a whole buy sell market. I don't see that too far in the future, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But they only showcased the trade. It was like 13 minutes total video. So yeah, it was very brief, very brief.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like a way for them to monetize their
Hmm.
previous version of what they currently
Exactly,
have, right? Where you could buy
exactly.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They were leveraging what they've already built quite heavily. And they just basically rebranded it and said, okay, let's take away some of the complexity and give this to a new market and make it like it's a new thing. So yeah,
Yeah, let us print. That's what
innovation.
they're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Innovation
You could buy the
at its
digital
best.
stuff and we'll take the real money.
Exactly. Yeah, here's this. No, give me your dollars. or Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I saw Basic jump in. Good to see you, Basic. Appreciate you
What's
coming
up,
by, my
Basic?
friend. Ernie says, "PoNGa, you can start another podcast where all you talk about is Call of Duty and how washed up we all are."
Hey,
Could be. It could be
our
popular.
the podcast Beersky and I, we will be talking about video
Cover it.
games quite a
Yeah.
lot. We're trying to balance every episode being, the first one was a little more Pokemon related, but it's going to be a
Yeah.
good balance of both. So if you enjoy that kind of stuff, we're definitely going to talk about Call of Duty a lot.
Yeah, and they had some good topics on games in there. I liked even some of the way you guys structured the content on hot takes and some of the, doing the positions of debate. That was good too. It's a little bit like what we did with Basic as well.
Yeah.
It was
Yep.
fun. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
It's always fun arguing a position that you don't necessarily agree with
Yeah.
because the that really shows how good you are at like critically thinking and like
Yeah.
digesting information quickly and responding in an educated way to where you might pull off a win but not necessarily get there completely. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun for sure.
Yeah. It's kind of like Basic lost every argument. No, I'm kidding. But no,
Well, Basic was
it was
arguing
fun.
against himself. That I commented on that video. He was like, I and I don't know if you took it that way because you responded to it, but I was like, this just shows like why nuance, like you could out
Yeah.
nuance yourself because he was arguing so much to the point where he started arguing your point, and Biersky did that the
I was
same
like,
way in
thank
our
you.
podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
exactly.
it's like,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. So sometimes you just need to be really direct.
Yeah.
But I love
See,
Basic.
there you
Basic's
go.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
See,
I
look,
enjoyed the
Basic.
conversation.
I felt like I won every single one Basic said. That was a great episode, though.
Yeah.
I love that episode.
Basic, that just shows that we remember what we want to remember, right? Basic. So, you know, you can tell yourself whatever version of the truth you want to say, but the public knows I won the majority. That's okay though. That's okay. um, One other thing I want to hear your opinion on, especially because you're in sports, or at least you were. You collected the card games. Um, you're somewhat aware of I'm not sure how much or how in tune you may be on the side of T or not TGT, but cards in the market of sports, and we being Pokemon on that trajectory of somewhat of that path of maturity. Being that the amount of money spent there, the amount of people there, the amount of interest there, number of graded cards, just the overall interest in that space, and we're kind of heading in that direction. And collecting sports cards has been cool for a long time. Collecting Pokemon cards in public has just recently been cool. So what's your perspective on our path and journey of maturity on that track of kind of following the path of sports?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's hard to think, if you think like 25 years down the road, obviously like sports might get even bigger or smaller, whatever. But
Right.
if that increases, like, can we get to where sports is now 25 years in the future with Pokemon?
Right.
Um, it's hard to think like we could ever get there. And the main reason for that is like just how big the market for just sports is. And like, it's really hard to answer because sports has such a long history, and Pokemon would have to continue, in my opinion, to be as big as it is now for, I don't know, 40, 50 more years to get to that point
Right.
because we have relationships with Pokemon like Pikachu and Charizard and all those Lugia from when we were younger. But like the sports stars that people collect are real people. And I think people connect with real people a little better if they didn't necessarily have that experience with Pokemon in their childhood. So
Mm.
I think there's a point where we might be able to close the gap a little bit. Now, get to the point to where sports is in general, I don't see it. And if we do,
Mm.
we're probably all in a really good situation financially and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think what makes sports so great is they're just real people playing a real game that we all loved, or a lot of us loved when we were younger. And Pokemon, it's like it feels hard. It's hard to believe that that will appeal to a wide variety of people outside the people that might have grown up with it or picked it up over the pandemic. I don't know. I'm having a hard time really thinking through it, but to answer your question, I just think it's like hard to think we'll ever get to that point. Now, like I said, we could close the gap, but I don't think it'll like ever be as big as sports.
Yeah, it is hard to fathom. I don't disagree. And
That's why I'm kind of
seeing,
mumbling because it's like
yeah,
I can't like I can't see it, right? So
But all joking aside, I mean, if you take and a shout out to Pika Pika Papa Ryan, he does a great job at looking at the analytics on the Pokemon investing side, and he's been in the sports for decades. And he looks at those population reports and like where now we being Pokemon once again are outcompeting sports cards in PSA and number of submissions per month, and those are huge milestones. Now, to your point, that may just be a blip in the radar. Sports continues to recede in the future, farther away from us as we grow, but it'd be interesting to see. And I definitely think we're on a path of maturity. Whether we'll catch up, time will tell.
yeah, it's more of like a if you look at two graphs, I think they'll both go up
Yeah.
and maybe like or maybe close this way a little more.
Right.
But I don't think we'll ever be parallel with that sports graph. But like clearly, like I own all this stuff. I believe in Pokemon in the long term. So
we have more Pikachus than we have Babe Ruths, that's for sure.
yeah, I just think like it's not like 10, 15 years away. I think we're talking really far into the future, assuming cards are still in demand and all that kind of stuff to get to that point where we start really monetary value closing that gap, not necessarily graded population numbers. And it's funny you brought up Pika Pika Papa because I just started watching that episode today. That was like one of the only episodes that you've had that I haven't seen. So I was actually watching that earlier today, and I remember, on my way home from work, I was actually listening to it and him talking about being in sports for a couple decades now. So I'm excited to finish that up and get his perspective on things.
He's a great guy. I really enjoy talking with him, and I would love to pick his brain some more. Let some time pass and get some more, Pokemon time in his under his belt. But I'd love to chat with him a bit more, perhaps next year. That is true. Basic. That is true. The realities that we perceive is the only one that really matters. Yeah. Fair point. So Walrus
That's
thinks
very true.
that Pokemon will skyrocket. That's basically what he's saying here. Pokemon's going to skyrocket.
It's funny because like the demographics on like who watches sports and all that, like the specifically like baseball, which I really like the demographic, like young people don't really watch it as much as they used to, probably because like how mainstream video games have gotten and all that kind of stuff, and the need to go outside and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a super interesting dynamic we have here where younger kids are kind of moving away from the traditional go outside, play sports type approach and more to like the inside, maybe TCG related stuff. That'd be really cool to see in the future what really happens.
See a study out. Yeah. But do encourage your kids to go outside and exercise, please.
Yeah.
Stay active. Buying them
it's good to go outside.
Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Buying a Switch or Xbox for Christmas is good, but force them to ride the bicycle. Force them to not get on the electric scooter all the time.
As much as I enjoyed playing video games and all that kind of stuff, the times you remember most is outside playing with your friends and all that kind of stuff. So,
fully agree. iPhone, feel free to drop a link for Pika Pika Papa in the chat. Happy to support him and his channel. We're gonna move over to rapid fire questions. I skipped a couple of weeks on it. A couple of guests I would love to ask some of these too, but I was like, you know what? I'll save it. PoNGa is gonna be the perfect person to fire these off at. So
I'm not good at giving short answers. If you can't tell, I start talking in circles and trying to formulate my thoughts as I speak. So this should be fun.
that's all right. That's all right. So the first one will be generic. We'll just run through some Pokemon, some non-Pokemon. Best memory with your wife.
Oh man. So it was probably, I don't know if it's the best, but it's the first one that came to mind that was amazing. So the first one was well before we were married. So I played baseball in college. She played softball, and
Okay.
I finally asked her to be my girlfriend right as we were. So every spring break we went to Florida to play baseball there, like late February, early March. And when we got back, we just spent the whole day together, finally being together as boyfriend and girlfriend. So that was like we laid on the
The
couch. I
first day.
remember we watched the Bulls game weirdly enough, and yeah, just one of those times where
Nice.
you spend with the person that matters most to you, and just kind of sticks with you. That really good bonding experience that people
Yeah.
tend to have, and is yeah, that's the one for sure. Short answer.
Burned in memory forever.
Yeah.
Best buy-in experience.
Best buying experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're gonna bounce all over the place here, so get ready.
Hmm. Oh man, that's a tough one. I'll go with buying from Stop to Shop, which is a very
Hmm.
old Pokemon store. He is a very nice guy and called me on the phone. No, I take that back. Buying from David Person was number one.
Ah,
I
okay.
Yeah, I know this is short answers, but like really quick.
That's please go
You
ahead.
put in your
Yeah.
you put in your phone number. I asked him for a specific pack art of a pack I bought from him, and he called me on the phone, and it was like the most surreal thing because like back then it was like David Person, the myth, like having the biggest Pokemon card collection, and then he just calls me on his personal phone to have a conversation with me about Pokemon.
That's cool.
And this was like back in 2020, like before I knew any people on YouTube or anything like that. So it was pretty cool.
That's really
Oh,
cool.
Thrifty said in the chat early TikTok. Yep, we love those deals.
Yeah. Yeah, not too bad, right? 80% off. 80% off. What would you name your first child?
That's something haven't really thought about. I really don't know.
Okay, we'll
I
pass. We'll
Yeah.
pass. All right.
Children aren't in the near term, so
Okay. Something your wife does that really gets under your skin.
please don't be watching. God, there's so many.
Jeez.
No, she's amazing. I've said it multiple times. Probably the number one is her hating how analytical I am with answers. I never just give a yes or no. So it gets under my skin that she hates that.
Okay.
I'm
What
clipping this.
makes you Yeah, I saw that. What makes you most joyful?
Being at home with my cats and my wife.
I love that.
There's
How
nothing
many
like sitting on the couch. There's nothing like sitting on the couch looking around and seeing all three cats around me and then my wife sitting on the couch.
And for me, it was my dogs a while back. They've passed away now, unfortunately. But yeah, sitting on the bed at the time with three dogs watching a TV show was awesome. What? Excuse me. How much time do you spend listening or watching Pokemon content in a given week?
How many hours are in a week?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, it's hard to put an exact number, but you know, several hours a day. When I'm working at stuff like a report or something at work, I'm probably listening to something. I like listening to stuff in the background while I'm working. So I don't know, probably somewhere like 20 to 30 hours a week. And that's probably way low.
Yeah, exactly. Good content comes out in a given week, and they could jump up to 80 real quick.
Yes.
Now, this is one that Ryan asked earlier. Worst Pokemon ever created.
You know, it's funny. And God, this is short answers. Can I give some nuance?
Yeah, please go for it.
So I think everyone always says like new gen Pokemon, but like, have we ever looked at like the designs of like Kanto Pokemon? Like how simple they are? Like people complain,
Mm.
oh, Pokemon's running out of ideas. Like Ekans is literally just snake backwards. Like what are we doing here? But the worst one, oh man, probably like Caterpie. No, not Caterpie, Weedle. Weedle.
No offense to Weedle's Warehouse, of course.
No, Weedle's warehouse is S tier.
Yeah, yeah, he's killing it, man. You're approaching a yellow light. Do you step on the gas or the brake?
I'll default to what I was taught in our driving school at work, that if you're in the intersection as the light is still yellow, you're allowed to cross. So
Gas it
take
is.
that answer as you will. The point of no return, are you in there or not?
Exactly. Maximum number of days you've worn an article of clothing without washing it.
Like straight or
No, you could have like left it for a day, like on the end of the bed, and then wore it again 2 days later.
it's probably like a baseball jersey, like to a game, because like washing those could kind of ruin them. I don't know, 5 times or something. I don't know. I've never counted. So if they smell, I don't wear them, right? Like let's just put it that
Okay.
way.
Yeah, I figured you being a very cleanly type of person, and your wife
Yes.
keeps you in check. Yeah, like most good wives do. You're starting to bald. Do you shave your head or do you hide it?
I go to Turkey and get hair plugs.
Dumbest decision you've thought about and actually executed
In Pokemon or just in general?
in general?
God, that's a really hard one. I make dumb decisions every day. Man, dumb decision. Probably not, I'm going to make it Pokemon related because the first thing that pops in my head,
Sure.
but probably not going all in when I first started Pokemon. It was a very dumb decision, but it still somehow paid off.
Your favorite or to be dream spot vacation?
Um, oh God, I have like three. Um, Japan.
Okay, we're gonna switch over to name the PokeTuber.
Okay.
You know how this works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think would be the best singer? Because I'm
Trying to
assuming
think if
you haven't heard of anybody sing.
I'm going to go with Retro because I know he's a good rapper and we both enjoy rap.
All right. In the hobby, simply because they love it the most.
Man, PokeTuber. There's probably a different answer, but for a quick answer, I'm probably gonna go with. I feel like Old Card Shop really likes what he does. He seems to really enjoy it, or maybe he's just
Yeah.
really good at making videos, but he seems to really enjoy it.
Yeah. He runs deep in the hobby, and he's definitely a good people's person. That's for sure, based on his background too. Worst beard in the hobby.
Dan, no.
That was quick.
Does anyone have a patchy beard? Oh man. can't think of one off the top of my head, so I'm going to think
No.
of Dan when he shaves his beard because he should always have it really, really long.
It looks so good long.
Yeah,
I really
I
like
mean,
it. Yeah.
he pulls it off.
Yeah. He does a good job. He's got that like Viking look. It's perfect.
It's full. When you
Yeah.
grow a full beard, you should
Yeah.
show it
Yeah.
off.
Rocket. Rocket. Who has the most interesting hidden talent?
Oh man. I don't know if I remember you asking this to someone else and they couldn't think of like a hidden talent because most of the talents we would know of are probably known like out in the public. I'm going to go with myself because I know
Okay.
of one that people don't. I'm really good at juggling, which
Really?
is hidden, I guess. Yeah. I have like I have like my own set of juggling balls and stuff. Yeah.
You practice?
I used to. I haven't in a long time, but I bet I could
Okay.
still juggle.
Hmm. Lars, I'm not gonna bring that comment up. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Someone who has massive potential but is holding themselves back.
Hmm. Man, how do you answer this in a way that's not negative? Um, Massive potential.
That's the
I'm gonna go
positive.
with yeah. I'm gonna go with Mertz because I want to watch more of his content. I think he's
We were
really good
just
at speaking. I think he has a lot of good thoughts to share, and I wish he would share it with us more.
yeah, we were just saying that before we started. We want to see more of Mertz. We would not be upset if he put out more content.
Yeah.
Who has been the newest addition to YouTube subscription list?
Yeah, so when I took that like month and a half break, I was primarily just watching video game content, and my recommended feed is now all video game related. So I'm gonna name a few. Chase After the Right Price is really good for like flipping stuff and
Hmm.
learning other markets and seeing how his thought processes could translate into our market. Phoenix Resale is really good at that kind of too.
Yeah.
That he's a really big channel, and I think a lot of people might know him. And then like the less serious stuff, I think Pixel Game Squad, and then
Hmm.
who's the editor for Phoenix Resale, and
Oh,
then
I didn't know that.
their podcast Pixel Plus is probably the best content on YouTube in my opinion.
Wow, let's check that out. Pixel Plus podcast. Okay.
So their podcast channel Pixel Plus, they post the clips of like all the segments and then they post the full episode. So it's kind
Hmm.
of I hate that. Like I just want to watch the full episode in full like when I'm sitting there. So it's kind of tedious when you look through their videos to find the actual podcast, but it's very
Hmm.
good if you like video games.
Okay. Who do you think is the hardest working?
Hmm. Hardest working. My answer before, because I don't know as much because now he has Walrus, but I think like 6 months ago, my answer would have been like old school Pokemon selling those 99-cent singles and grinding.
Yeah, that's one that comes to the top of my list too. Who would you trade your collection with?
Can I trade up?
Yes. Doesn't have to be
Yeah,
fair value.
that's a tough one. Um, I'm not going to trade up too much, but if, just from, I don't really watch him as much anymore, but I really like Twice Baked Jake's collection because of
Hmm.
all the Poncho Pikachu boxes he has in the background of most of his videos. I know when I first got back in, I had a plan to buy those and then they just got out of hand. And I thought, well, they might go down and they just kept going up. So I wanted those Poncho
Okay.
Pikachu boxes. So him.
Okay. Yeah, I've always wanted those myself.
Mm.
Who is the most articulate?
Articulate. I'd probably say like either you or Dan.
Oh, thank you, sir. Much appreciated. Next in line to get married.
I think Oh, he's not a PokeTuber. I know Vandy's getting married this year, I think. Old Card Shop's engaged, isn't he?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot.
So
Yeah,
Old Card Shop. I think I don't know
yeah.
if anyone else is. Doesn't come to the top of my head, but
I know Nick, old school Pokemon, is getting flirted on a lot there in the live, so we'll see what happens next. We'll see.
yeah, he needs
Depends
to
on
act on those then. He can't
yeah,
just,
exactly.
there comes a
Someone
time where you
who
don't need a live stream on eBay.
exactly. Um, someone who continuously surprises you in a pleasant way when you watch their content.
Hmm. I wish you asked me these questions like 3 months ago when I was watching way more channels. I'll probably go again with the Old Card Shop. I just really enjoy listening to him, and I think he always has a unique perspective. And
Hmm.
sometimes it's things that are really out there, which surprises me.
Yeah. The most frugal.
Oh, frugal. I'm gonna go with myself again. I don't know. I don't have a
Okay.
good one.
All right. If somebody had to save you from a burning building, who would it be?
Someone that's big. I want them to carry me out like a baby.
Exactly.
Can I like make a list here of like all tall people? You're tall. Something about having Dan carrying you out of a burning building feels right with his beard.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah.
that's very sus, Walrus.
The green shiz
The
says
green shiz is a
correctly.
good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I want him to bear hug me with his giant hands and carry me out of that
Yeah.
building.
He can take two or three of you. Just throw him on the back. He's got it.
Yeah,
I love it. Good answer.
that's a great answer. Thank you for that.
Best balance in work and family.
I'm not going to answer you because you're on here because I think you do a good job from what you said, what you talk about. But um, I'll just go with the default answer that I know a lot about because I talk to him is Dan. I think he does. We make all the jokes and all that stuff on his channel, but I mean, he works nights now. Um, I see him commenting on stuff at 1 o'clock in the morning, working nights just to spend more time with his children. And I know he always takes time off to spend with his family, so I'll go with him.
Okay. Yeah, he's definitely changed his whole schedule to make things possible and still run the business and prioritize family first. So definitely
And I
kudos
think
to Dan.
I think a lot of people in this space, at least like from what they talk about, do a pretty good job at balancing it, especially when they're like full-time businesses.
I think we kind of touched that one, Ryan, but I'll throw it up here for you. What country do you want to visit most?
I'll name a couple because I did answer it a little bit. So, Japan for obvious reasons. Pokemon Japan just seems like a great experience. I love sushi, all that kind of stuff. I love the culture. Um, Other place I want to travel to, I really want to go to Australia. My wife went to Australia back in
Hmm.
2016, and funny enough, my favorite animal is a kangaroo, and that's part of the reason I want to go to Australia. The other part, it just looks like a really cool place, like a different world being there. And then Italy.
Oh, nice, nice. Never been to Italy before. I want to go as well.
Yeah, I want to one day I want to just do like a 2 week trip and just do a lot of Europe, spending a couple
That'd be
days in a
awesome.
few countries.
Yeah, take some time off. You enjoy it. All right, my friend. We'll jump over to the personal side as we often do. Touch a little bit here, and then we'll wrap it to a close. I appreciate your time.
Of
It's getting
course.
late here. We got work tomorrow.
I got like
Um,
5 more hours. Let's go. I want basics record.
I
We're
only do
too
like
deep
four.
now.
I think it
We're
was
too
four
deep
hours.
now.
Yeah. You give more nuanced answers. Then don't hold yourself back. I didn't have to say anything to Basic. He just went off.
Yeah, maybe you need to ask more questions that I could be nuanced about.
It was a point in Basics Live where somebody said, "Blink if you're here against your will." It's like, it's good.
I
It's good
remember
stuff.
that.
Yeah. All right. So you and your wife have been married. You said for how many years? I don't think I caught it earlier.
October 2022, we got married.
Okay, not that long ago. Okay,
Yeah. We've
but
been
you've been
together
dating.
since,
Yeah.
yeah, since 2014, 15? 15.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so I was a
15.
sophomore in college. She was a freshman.
So you met through college, like, sitting in a classroom together, or was it through sports, or how did you actually
Uh,
meet?
I
Meet?
yeah, so when you go to a super small school, a lot of times like sports tend to hang out with each other
Mm,
and all that kind of stuff. So I was on the baseball team, she was on the softball team, so we kind of met each other that way.
okay. And was she digging you, or it was a one-way street?
All right, there's the nuance story. So we had some guys on the baseball team lived off campus in a house. So we used to always have parties and stuff at the baseball house, and um, we kind of met there a little bit, and that we talked a little bit before then, but then we hung out a little bit there, and then um, we found out really weird things that we had similar with each other. So we actually share the same birthday, just
Wow.
2 years apart, which is it's very interesting sharing your birthday with your partner. How you have that dynamic where you're basically giving gifts to someone on your birthday. Um, but yeah, so um, funny enough, we hung out that night, and then um, at the house, and then we didn't talk for several months, and then
Hmm.
it. I think we texted a little bit right after that, but then we didn't talk for several months, and then we kind of just randomly connected again after that. I kind of did I tried to talk to her and it didn't work out, and then kind of
Right.
put it on
Back
her
away.
court to reach back out to me. So yeah, then
That
we
always
we
works well.
yeah. So it was yeah, but we just share some weird similarities, like things like having the same birthday, which is like at a small school, like especially the person that you're interested in, like for that being like one of the first things you learn about the person, just it's a unique
Hmm.
experience. So it was awesome.
What did you like about her, other than?
Oh man, this guy's quizzing me. I feel like yeah, no, she's I like her competitiveness, her being an athlete, me being
Mm,
an athlete. We understand what that's like, and I think that's really important
mm,
when that plays
yeah.
such a big part in your life, to understand what it is to devote yourself to that for so many years, with the realization, hey, we're not going pro, we're just doing it because we love it and we want to do it as long as we possibly can. So I always really appreciated that about her. And then she accepts me for who I am. I'm a very flawed, indecisive, can't answer a question straight type of person. And she compliments me the best, because I could answer a question for 10 minutes without giving you the answer, like I think we found out tonight. And she knows exactly what my answer is and will answer for me. And then, the basic things, right? Like she's funny, all that kind of stuff. She's very caring. She does all the cooking in our house, all that kind of stuff. I mean, she makes sure I stay alive, which is funny. But yeah, she's just that rock, that other person, that other half of you that you're meant to find. And I'm really glad that I was able to find her. So yeah, it's just a culmination of everything that I really appreciated her when I first met her.
Is there something there that you would have added to that list, or maybe you just expanded upon slightly that you didn't know until after you were with her all these years?
Oh, something I didn't know.
It's not the reason you got together, but it's one of those things you're like, wow, this is what one more thing that makes her a great woman in my life.
Yeah, I think it's like it's a similar answer, but when you have that competitiveness, that drive, when it comes to
Mhm.
athletics, but then seeing her transition that into her professional life. I
Mhm.
always joke around with her that um I think like I'm going to be able to be a stay-at-home dad or stay-at-home husband, and she's going to be that VP making all the money, and I'll be cooking and cleaning, putting my apron on, making sure dinner's ready for her when she gets home. But she is just, I mean, I knew she was very smart, but when it comes to like professional life, she is just very good at the corporate life, which I wouldn't have
Mhm.
seen until later down the road. She's meant to be in the profession she is.
Yeah. What does she end up transitioning into as far as just the career field from that competitive sport? Because if you're going to transition that in, I mean, it really helps, especially women in the workplace that's in some places dominated by men. It helps them to really be competitive and not just be stepped over. What does she step into?
Yeah, so she's had a few different roles. Most recently, she just moved to a new role, but before that, she was like a marketing communication specialist for
Okay.
a very large company, and then she just really transitioned over to like kind of being in charge for like a whole category within that.
Oh wow.
Really around like the marketing space type of thing.
Okay.
I'm trying to answer it without giving out too much
Yeah.
information because I don't know if
Sure.
she wants it
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. No worries. I read what you were trying to put down.
In the
Thrifty said,
best
"Yeah."
ways, Thrifty. In the best ways.
That's right.
We
That's
collect
right.
Pokemon cards. We're all children.
That's right. We're all here talking about kids games. Um, you kind of mentioned it. You even slipped up there and said, "Stay at home, Dad." What are your plans for the family?
Hey, you're not supposed to ask that. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so
You told me you were open book.
yeah, I know. It's just not in the near term plans. We're very happy with our current situation. Just the two of us with our cats. I it's nice having time to ourselves, and we're just kind of enjoying that for the time being. Now,
Yeah,
with that said, I don't know. I mean, we're still both pretty young, so I don't know what the future holds, and I don't think we're decided one way or the other. But we always make the joke that we're dinks for life, double income, no kids. Um, the the life,
okay,
there's fulfillment in both ends of things, right? Like there's fulfillment in life at being able to basically do what you want and travel freely when you have that disposable income as we age.
sure.
But then there's also that satisfaction with having, children and all those great experiences you have with them and that sacrifice you make for them to give them a better life and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, undecided, but not in the near term plans.
Okay. If you, I'm sure you've talked about it. Do you have an idea of how many you might want to have when the time, if the time comes?
So I mentioned earlier that I'm weird with numbers, and it's probably my OCD part, but it's got to be an even number. So any even
Two
number.
or four? Yeah.
Yeah.
Six starts to be a little too much. Two or
Yeah,
four.
odd numbers don't do well with me. It kind of eats at me a little bit, so I don't do things on odd numbers.
Okay. That explains why you sold the pack of sleeves to me for $60. Okay, makes
Yeah,
sense.
okay, yeah, all right. Probably $10. That's what I would assume it was, or
Yeah,
15. I don't know.
yeah, I think it was 15 actually. They were good sleeves though. I would have paid happily 15.
Hey, they're from
Um,
Japan. I had to
right,
pay the shipping over. I probably
right.
didn't even make anything on them, to be completely honest with you.
I'm just giving him a hard time, guys. He didn't rip me off. Even if he did, I would have happily paid it. Um, one of the things we didn't talk too much about, we kind of just touched very lightly on it, is I wanted to hear more about your childhood. What was that like for you growing up? What was the setting with your parents? Where were you? Can give me some background there.
Yeah, this is when it gets a little tough to talk. So my mom has been a hairdresser her whole life. So She actually owns her own salon. She has for,
Oh,
I
okay.
think, like 38 years or something like that. And
Wow.
this last Sunday, I just helped her move out of one of them. She has two of them, and she moved out of one of the buildings to go rent a seat at someone else's place. So that was kind of tough on the family, specifically her. She wanted to make it 40 years, but she still owns one. So that's what I tell her. Like, it's for the best. She doesn't need to grind like she has her whole life. It's tough running a business, and being doing people's hair is a very stressful job. You have to be
Yeah.
personable, but also be very good at what you do, because people do care a lot about their hair. So my dad, um, we've had a lot of complications with him, and I've never really talked about it. So when I was 2000, or the year 2000, December, he so his profession was to help, or to fix eyeglasses specifically for like people downtown Chicago, like the governor and all those kind of people. So he would work, repair, and make eyeglasses for people. So pretty good profession. Um, he had some medical issues where he was having like tingling in his hands and all that kind of stuff,
Mm.
and um, got that checked out. Turns out that he had some spinal cord issues. So he December of 2000, got a surgery done. They didn't know if he was ever going to be able to walk again, all that kind of stuff. Turns out after that point, he was okay to the point where he only feels these two fingers on both hands, and he
Mm.
doesn't feel, he doesn't have feeling from his waist down, but somehow he's still able to walk, which is remarkable.
Hmm.
But like if you took a knife and stabbed him in the leg, he wouldn't feel it. And so it was very, very tough time on our family. I mean, I was 6 years old, my brother was 10. So my mom, grinding away, running her business, trying to make ends meet while we had the most extreme medical bills that any human could possibly have. So, moving there, it didn't get easier. Skipping ahead, he's had every surgery, hip replacements, back surgeries. And then one thing I didn't mention was when you have spinal cord issues, like a lot of times they put like metal rods in your neck to stabilize. So
Mm.
those actually got super infected. And
Yeah.
some odd years later, he didn't feel right. So he went to the doctor. Thank God he did. But his whole neck was all infected. And basically, like if he didn't go to the doctor, he would have died, right? It would have gone to his brain and he would have died. But after that surgery, they basically had to cut his neck open on the front and back, and clean everything out. And then
Mm.
I don't know if you've ever seen it. Like if you ever seen like the movie Mean Girls, where Regina George at the end has like that metal halo on
Yep.
his head. Yeah, so he had one of those for several months where he couldn't move his neck, and he was sitting upright in basically intensive care for several months. And then other complications with that surgery. Through that surgery, got things like a hole in his esophagus where he couldn't
Mm.
eat or drink anything for 6 months. So he had to be fed on, a feeding tube and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that was, it's a tough childhood. My parents did everything they could to make sure I got everything I ever asked for, and I never really asked for much as a kid, but I always got it if I did ask. And it's funny because my dad used to always say, my dad's dad passed away when he was 20, so he always like
Mm.
used to say like, "Hey, this happened to me so I could spend more time with you." Because after that point, he was basically forced to retire and hasn't worked since then. Um, but yeah, so it's people have it worse, right? They lose their parents and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was a tough upbringing. You don't really understand what's happening when you have to go after school every day to the hospital. You don't understand why um, your dad can't do basic things, things like playing catch with you and all that kind of stuff. He
Right.
was still able to do a little bit, or coach my teams, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was on a serious note, a very tough upbringing. Um, but I wouldn't change it, and it's probably hard for them to hear that, right? Like I bet my dad doesn't wish he is the way he is, but
Of course.
um,
Right.
I got to spend, in my older years when I was in travel baseball, my dad got to come with me, in his job when he worked, he would go to the city at 4 a.m. or whatever time, take the train into the city, come home, eat dinner, maybe have a beer, and then go to bed at 7, 8 o'clock,
Mm.
right? So we didn't get to spend time with him. So, it's a blessing in some fronts, but, obviously you don't wish that um, to happen on anyone. But yeah, it's the amount of strength it takes for someone to go through all that and come out on the other side. Um, And then, from my mom's side of things, raising two kids with basically out your husband, being able to be there a lot of the time was, I mean, it's just heroic, right? We both turned out
Yeah.
really good, um, and everything's good now. But every day I worry about getting a phone call that my dad fell or something, right? So it's just
Right.
something you live with your whole life, and you kind of get used to. But yeah, it's
What
uh, it's tough.
What do you think that tough time instilled in you now as an adult?
Yeah, appreciate things, and I don't think I do a good enough job at appreciating the things we do have, like health. Um, but
Mm.
I genuinely just enjoy and I don't always show it, but I genuinely enjoy the time I spend with all the people I love because, they always say like, oh, it could all be gone in a moment, but
Right.
it really can. And you never know when some medical issue is going to arise and your whole life's going to change. So just appreciating everything for what it is. And like I said, I'm not the best at doing that, but it's a work in progress, and sometimes you just got to sit back and realize that there's more important things.
Were you upset at that age when all this was kind of happening? And to your point, going to the hospital after work every day, or excuse me, after school every day. Were you kind of because you didn't understand, were you upset with the situation?
I mean, I'm sure there was times I was, but I don't really remember it that way. I mean, like
Okay.
I said, when it was happening, I was 6 years old or whatever, so everything's happy-go-lucky back then. Um, and like I said, I think my mom did a really good job to make sure that we lived a normal life, hung out with our friends, got packs of Pokemon cards, all that kind of stuff, even if we couldn't necessarily afford it. So yeah, I don't remember it as like, I mean, there was definitely moments where, especially like the second time, like what I said with like the whole Halo type thing, like, I remember I didn't know that happened, right? And so when you walk in and
Mm.
see that, it kind
Yeah.
of that's a
Hits hard.
moment that just is always burned into my memory. Um, but yeah, I don't remember it being like something I was upset about every day or something because I still had them around and I still got to spend time with them.
So to your dad's point, it allowed him to be there with you in a different way than he probably ever
Yeah.
could have been. Do you have any special memories from some of that time at home with dad?
Yeah, so I was a first baseman, right? So one of your jobs is to pick the ball out of the dirt when someone makes a bad throw. My dad used to sit there in the chair, inside or outside, and just purposely bounce the ball, throwing it to me, even if he was sitting there throwing it, just to make sure I was as good as I possibly could. Um, and to his credit, I was phenomenal. Speaking about myself, it's easy to talk yourself up, but if there was one thing I was good at sports, it was playing first base.
Mm. I can see that kind of playing out and him sitting there back in the chair and tossing you the ball and yeah. Do you have any, I would say, permanent and prominent words that he shared with you in those moments? Because I'm sure he was going through a really tough time, and as you get a little bit older, he probably shared some thoughts and words with you that maybe stuck with you.
Yeah, it's hard because he never made it seem like something was wrong to me, right? So when you think of like important talks, it was more of like an action, like make every day as good as it possibly could be type approach. And um, I think I already touched on it a little bit. Him saying like this happened so I could spend time with you. That's the thing that always stuck out from that time. Nothing like words of wisdom or anything. It was just like a, hey, this happened for a reason. Let's make the best of it.
Yeah. What a great piece to take forward, though. For any tough times you might have in your future. You
Yeah, it's
mentioned.
nothing
I'm
gets
sorry.
as stressful than medical issues, right? So
Yeah.
just reminding yourself that there's worse things with whatever you're going through, right? Just
Exactly.
get through it.
You mentioned your brother. I'm sorry. You actually a sibling. I don't know if you said brother, but you do
Yeah,
have an
brother.
older brother.
Yeah.
And how much older was he?
He's 4 years older than me.
4. Okay. So you guys were close enough to really bond growing up. I mean, were you both playing sports and he was playing baseball with you, or?
Yeah, so he was a big baseball player as well. Um, it's funny because everything we went through, he was a little older, so I think he understood things a little more. Um,
Hmm.
and
Right.
he's still like this to this day that he treats me like a little kid sometimes or all the time. And what I mean by that is like he tries to shelter me from any negativity, and takes it all on himself, which
Hmm.
is, he's always done that since we were little kids. Like if there was an issue, he would always try to like take me out of the room, or just kind of shelter me when my parents couldn't because of everything that was going on. And I still get mad at him to this day, like, hey, you don't need to go through this by yourself. Like, I'm an adult, I could handle things. But it's just
That's a
very,
good big brother. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's it right there. And it's funny growing up. To your point, we were very close in age, and you tend to like butt heads with your sibling when you're close in age and stuff. We never had that. We never
Mm,
argued. We never fought. I mean, we did here and there, but nothing like you see siblings do.
right.
We always got along really well, which was awesome.
I love it, man. Are you still connected today? Are you guys bonding and doing anything at this stage?
Yeah, so we actually bond a lot over cards. So he actually does sports cards full time.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So he works with a shop, does streaming breaks, stuff like that. Um, we don't spend as much time together as we probably should, considering we live like 5 minutes down the road. But it doesn't matter. We don't need we don't need to necessarily spend quality time together to bond. It's Nothing changes when we spend time apart.
You see what's happened here, don't you, PoNGa?
What?
Running the car businesses in the family, man. It's in the
No,
blood.
he doesn't run his own business. He works for someone. So to my point, if someone offers me a
Okay.
full-time salary
Paid salary.
position, hint,
Okay.
hint, Dan, 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 I'm here.
Okay. I see the point. I see the point. All right. Um, it's fun because I definitely see that with my two sons. Going back to your point about the brothers and them not being too far apart, and they do everything together. They're little fights, typical stuff, but they're not on the ground like punching each other in the face or anything. So it's great to see them, and we force them to have a bunk bed in the same room, at least for now, while they're still a little bit younger, and get that bonding experience. And they're on the floor playing, and we hope that leads to exactly what sounds like you and your brother have, and that's that really supportive relationship, to always be there. Yeah,
Yep.
looking forward to that. Going through those times in your younger years, especially as you got into teenage years, and more early teens, um, did you have somebody outside of your mom or dad or your brother that really supported you and inspired you to kind of get through those tough teen years that we all go through?
Oh man, I'm sure there's
Coach
people.
or
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, the problem with coaches is like they tend to come and go when you
yeah,
change teams. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like any athletics you're involved in, your coaches have a big impact on your life.
yeah,
Specifically, if you have a good relationship with them, which fortunately I did with a lot of my coaches growing up. I'd say like moving into college, there was one professor that I really enjoyed, and he always seemed to like push on me and this is past my teenage years, obviously, right? I was in college, but
Right.
he seemed to always like push on me a little harder than other people or grade my work a little harder, and it seemed like that. And he was like my advisor and stuff, which always drove me to want to be the best I could. And the classes he taught that I took were all like biology related to my major. And I don't think I ever told him, and I haven't probably spoken to him since, but he had a huge impact on my college career, wanting me to better myself and really, when you get a science degree, it's not the easiest thing to do. Some of those courses are very intense, and having that person to drive you is really important. I mean, I still to this day think my biggest accomplishment in life was going back a little bit is my advanced anatomy course that actually included dissection of a cadaver. And when you're in that course, it's a lot of pre-med students, right? So it's
Yeah.
very, very intense. And the end practical, you basically had to identify every nerve, every muscle, every bone, the parts of the bones of the entire human body on an actual cadaver. And that's probably like the most accomplished thing I've ever done in my whole life, was like studying a packet this thick of every single thing in your entire body. And he was part of the reason why I pursued that, right? To challenge myself.
Mm.
And on top of knowing all that, you had to spell everything correctly as well. Otherwise, it was
Ooh,
wrong.
I would have
So
failed right there.
yeah, yeah, it is like the most ridiculous set of knowledge that you have to cram into your head that I haven't used since.
You mean you don't use that selling Pokemon cards? That's
No, I don't
great.
need to know your cranial nerves. I'm sorry.
It might help you understand why we buy such crazy things.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows?
No, that's psychology. That's not anatomy.
Yeah. Well, it could be something physically wrong with this PoNGa. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and
Good
I
stuff,
will say
man.
to Thrifty's point, being like a dead person, what I want to say as well is like when you're in that like community and you go through that experience, and I'm sorry, like if anyone doesn't want to hear about that, but um, you learn to really appreciate that that person donated themselves for us to
Mm,
learn. So just think of it that way, and it doesn't make it as gross or
right.
yeah.
Yeah. This has been an amazing journey. I've deeply enjoyed it, PoNGa. We'll do two more here to round us off, and
I think I only need
get
like an hour and a half more, so I got to start answering longer questions.
so you can take as long as you want to answer these last two. No problem. No problem. One of the best choices we make, and you can speak to this yourself, is finding that partner in our lives and building a relationship in an environment where we can both foster each other to create the best version of ourselves. Um, how do you create this in your home with your wife in your marriage? What are those kind of tips you've learned along the way? Because yes, you may have only been married for two, but you've been with her for quite some time. And I can get a pretty good sense that you guys have a great relationship, and it's not easy. It takes effort and work. So, what advice and what practices do you have in place?
Yeah, so there's a lot.
There
I
we go.
think,
Extra
yeah,
hour.
I think, yeah, I think there's, when you think of relationships, there's a lot of learning how to be unselfish. Um, I think when you're growing up, it's very easy to be selfish and
Yeah.
do things for yourself and put yourself ahead of everyone else. I mean, when you think of like school and all that kind of stuff, you're really a sole person going through that, and it benefits you to do well rather than other people. I think when you get into a relationship, get married and all that, it's really about knowing how to be unselfish. And obviously there's times to be selfish, but putting that other person's wants or what they need from you ahead of what you might want to do. And I'm not necessarily the best at always doing that. I have my flaws and things that I mess up on all the time, and I do, I say it today and knowing that probably tomorrow I'll make the same mistake. But yeah, I think that's one of them. And then Two is just knowing what your partner needs out of you. So, sometimes, one of my skills or my lack of skill is, really communicating how I feel at all times. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's just good to share how you feel with someone, so they know why you're
Yeah.
reacting the way you are. And if she's watching, she'll know exactly what I'm talking about. That a lot of times I just go silent, and
Same here.
that's sometimes bet for the best, but not always the best.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else is there. Say yes a lot. Um, yeah, I'll just leave it there. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'll leave it there.
No, I fully agree. And, we often, especially as males, we tend to, when things are tough, we get quiet. We shut down. And it's not that we are trying to hide anything from them. It's just that this is how we process a tough time, and we kind of go internal. And yeah, you're not alone there, but they always are trying to get a feeler for how do they feel, how do you feel, what's going on, and being able to communicate that. Excuse me, being able to communicate that to them so that they understand really helps to close the gap between the two of you in that moment in that relationship. But I would also, on the opposite side of the coin, say that there are times where it's better to be silent and
Yes.
give it a day, a week, or whatever it takes, and come back to it with a fresh mind and perhaps less emotion and more logic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and one thing, your last guest, Rusty, which, by the way, ridiculous that I have to follow him up, but congrats on you having him on. He's amazing. But what he said is also very true. Is like not trying to go to bed like if there's an issue,
Yeah.
making sure to resolve that issue before you go to bed, and that's something that we've always been very good at doing.
Yeah. I've struggled a little bit there, but at times, but yeah, fully agree. Fully agree. Well, my friend, you know what's coming next. I'm sure you've given this some thought leading into today. One day we'll leave this hobby. We'll be moving on to something else. What legacy do you hope you can leave here when you're gone, PoNGa?
I hope everyone forgets me. No, that's a joke, but like I feel like if I'm honest and truthful to how I want to portray myself or act in my business or how I communicate with people, that I kind of just want to float off into the sunset. And if people don't talk about me, that's probably a good thing. Um, I just I just want to be honest and truthful and share my genuine thoughts on things and not be remembered for being deceiving or trying to benefit myself. Um, yeah, just being truthful and honest. That's what I want to be remembered for.
I think we uncovered a lot of that here today, PoNGa. And we got to see some of the true colors of PoNGa himself. So I really
Come on,
do.
someone in chat ask a question. We need to keep going.
He's really trying to beat the basic, trying to beat the basic live. I really do appreciate it, PoNGa. Your time is everybody's time, and also your time is deeply valuable. And the fact that you're willing to share it with me and share it with us is something I'll never forget. And I truly appreciate it, PoNGa.
Of course, I said at the beginning, it's pretty like surreal being on this. I mean, you've had a ton of amazing guests, and I don't think I'm worthy, but clearly you thought I was. So I truly appreciate you having me on. It's like I said, it's crazy that I get to follow up Rusty, who's like the ultimate pillar of Pokemon. Um, I'm glad to be able to share my experience in the hobby and Pokemon, my collecting journey, my reselling journey, my investing journey, and then also give people a little bit of insight on what's behind the PoNGa Collectibles brand and that purple and light blue Pokemon ball that's in every single or Pokeball that's in every live chat cracking jokes. There's more behind than just a couple of jokes. So I'm glad starting my own content, being on other people's channels more often, kind of give people a better idea of who I am and what I aspire to be.
And I'm so glad that you're doing that now with some of your own content. And I think we've kind of seen this unfold here today, but you're definitely, I think, on a trajectory that it's going to grow. And I think at one point you will be challenged to ask yourself, should I keep working at my job or not? It's gonna be something that you'll have to ask yourself. But in the meantime, happy to share the real you with the world, and happy to learn more about you, PoNGa.
It's always good
Everybody
sharing.
else, my friends all in the chat, I appreciate you as well, always. And for anybody watching afterwards, make sure you check out all of PoNGa's links below. We also have the Box Nostalgia podcast as well linked. So check that out. Give them a good sub. It's going to be one you don't want to miss. They're just getting started. So be there for the beginning and rock it to the end. Have a great weekend, everybody. We look forward to see you on the next one. Have a great night.